Sorry, I gotta have the headphones.
Bang! Welcome, everybody. It's Saturday Night Bang. We have Rob Farlow, a.k.a. the Stone Sailor. Thanks to everybody in the chat for being here. And our special guest, Miss Susan Bassi.
Before we start, I just want to notify everybody. This isn't Saturday Night Live. It's not Saturday Night Fever, although I look like John Travolta with hair. Okay? This is Saturday Night Bang. So right. Sit back, open your ears, and learn something, Dickie. And another thing, people are asking me about that intro I just showed everybody. My boy from Canada, King Rook, he has his own King Rook 306. He did this for me. Special shout out to him. Thank you. He served time in a Canadian prison. And those of you who don't know about Canadian prison, it ain't all Molson beer and poutines, okay? There's some rough places. There's some rough joints in Canada too, all right? But they all got good manners. That's the difference.
Shout out. What was his name again?
King Rook 306. He's starting his own genre of prison podcast, but it's from a Canadian inmate perspective.
Right on. I also want to introduce somebody everybody is familiar with, Major Lee Awesome, a.k.a. Rogue Nation. He's pretty much our legal, not counsel, but expert guy. Without giving legal advice, staying on the legal side of things. So
yeah, absolutely.
I really thought he'd be interested in this, and it's been a while since he's been on the Bang Show. So Saturday Night Bang, welcome aboard, Major Lee Awesome.
Bang.
Bang. And again, hey, I want to welcome Susan Bassi. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. I really appreciate you, and it's an honor to have you. You are a champion for our cause, for your cause, for other people, and defending our freedom out in California. And you have a channel. Everybody go subscribe to Susan Bassi's channel. If you haven't seen her video, it's got, 2.3 million views or something? We'll take a look at it.
One of them does.
But yeah, tell us about yourself. Everybody has an origin story, and yours began...
in 1964, in the Civil Rights Movement, I was lived in a little closet in the Haight-Ashbury district. And then I married a farmer down in the Salinas Valley. So I grew up as liberal as you can imagine, and I married as conservative as you can imagine.
That's a good balance.
Yeah, best of both worlds.
So I walk in the middle all the time. But I do have to tell you that I'm 56 years old, and in a million years, if you told me I was going to be on a YouTube channel on a Saturday night on a show called Saturday Night Bang, I would have 5150, wouldn't you?
Bang stands for the Bolt Action News Group, and that's we couldn't find bang.com, but we have Bolt Action News
It's
Group.
Great. It's great.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, coming up in Haight-Ashbury in the 60s, boy, you got some stories.
Yeah.
Berkeley in the 70s when my mom was going to school at UC Berkeley, and we waded through all the civil rights movements. I grew up watching it. Saw my first gay couple kissing on the corner in Berkeley. Saw it all.
Some of our viewers' heads just exploded right now. A lot of super conservative people here, but hey, this is America.
But you got to remember that I grew up with that, and the things that you guys are doing are a blend of both. It is absolutely amazing to me what you're doing. And we were talking about that today in some of my groups. We were just talking about how if you guys get one person to record, I saw Justin Pullman today his sheriff finally got fired. If you guys get one sheriff fired, you get one DA indicted, you get one judge removed, you get one in any community because someone picks up their phone and records, then everything you do is worth it every single day.
That's what I say. Just make your dent. Just make your dent. Don't worry about the whole pie. Just take the slice and make the dent.
That's right. That's right. I love that. I've heard you say that before, and I always love that because sometimes when you're thinking of the whole pie, it's too overwhelming. We would be shut down. We can't do that all. But if we look at what we can do every single day, and each of you you all amaze me. You're all publishers, you're all producers, and you're finding your voice and you're finding your creativity and you have your styles, and every single video, every single thing you do matters.
And we have our motivation and our inspiration. It's the people who are corrupt helping us go out there and expose them.
They write the script for us. We don't have to write
Absolutely.
it.
And they have the perfect opportunity to write a really good script and represent themselves as public service and honorable people with integrity. And some of them, they get the ball and they drop it. They just can't do it.
And one thing I really like about your focus, it's not just on cops, it's on lawyers and judges. And the DA.
Well, I never focused on cops before. If
Right.
you look at my channel, I was running around after lawyers, chasing them down the hallways. And it was really when I met San Joaquin Valley Transparency that I thought everything they're doing to expose the police and the culture and what's going on is what's going on with lawyers and judges. It goes on with all people. And so we need to start talking about the culture, why someone uses their discretion to arrest somebody or prosecute somebody or harm somebody, and why they use their discretion to help them. We need to start analyzing that and talking about that we're individuals and not lumps of people.
So from 1964 to what was it, 2013, when your recent trouble began? You've been fighting this for 8 years?
Well, it depends on what you want to talk about where I was fighting things. But I think mostly what happened is I've been very fortunate. I've had a very upper middle class lifestyle and owned 2 properties and lived the American dream. And I didn't start out that way. I started out in a closet in the Haight-Ashbury and lived very conservatively, owned multiple farming businesses. And I had that experience, and I never knew any of this. And I grew up in the Bay Area, and I didn't know this was going on. I thought things worked the way we saw on TV and on the news. And I raised 3 kids, and that's what I always believed. And I got into the family court, and every single day, and it's more than 200 hearings. I think I'm at 300. My criminal case alone is 54 hearings. So every day I was in the court, I would meet new people, and they would tell me their stories. And then I spent probably 3 years trying to get these stories to every mainstream media outlet. I met with the New York Times. I'm in the Washington Post. I know reporters, and I worked with them. And I said, why are we not talking about what's going on in our own community? We don't need to run to the border and talk about families being separated. It's happening right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why we feel compelled to do something about it. And
so it's not my story. It's all of these other stories. And you guys are all helping me put it together and be able to explain it better. Because when I see you do a cop video and I see you, I used to judge those. I would have turned that off in 30 seconds 5 years ago. And now I watch everything you do. I listen to everything you say when you talk about being in prison, when you talk about being in jail. I never had that experience. And I want to know everything you tell me, I listen to, and it's important.
Yeah, I also have never had that experience. Rob worked there, and Major.
Yeah, I did some time when I was younger, and I actually volunteered sort of like for it. They offered me house arrest and probation, and instead I decided to go see what, all the hype was about that I'd heard about, and I'm like sort of like a kind of I got to see it kind of hands-on kind of guy. So that was my first wake-up call to the corruption and stuff like that, because, prison's not about rehabilitation at all. I mean, I was on a 1,000-person compound, and there was maybe 60 people that were actually able to go into some kind of trade school while they were there. Basically it's, sitting around, hanging out with your fellas, playing little hoops, working at the, the kitchen, or working laundry, or working the road crew. And then the rest of your time you're working out, you're sitting on your bunks, you're getting educated by other criminals. And that's why there's a 72% recidivism rate, because you're not going to take these guys who couldn't make a living beforehand and had to resort to crime, put them with a bunch of other criminals, kick them out 5 years later, and think the guy's going to, do a Nobel Peace Prize presentation or something. He's going to go right back to it. He's not going to go work at McDonald's and try to support him, and maybe even he has a family on McDonald's, or, even a little bit more, $10 an hour.
We've seen some reform, but it comes from themselves. It's not the system helping them. They just superstars in the law library who end up getting out and becoming paralegals at a law firm and helping those who are inside, like Richard.
That's right.
Shout out to Richard Kid.
There have been a lot of people who have done that all over the country.
Problem is our court system, our prison system are for profit.
Yep.
And I know everybody says defund the police. No, defund the judicial system, the prosecutors. They're a corrupt class of individuals. They played fast and loose with our Constitution for way too damn long. They have absolute immunity. They could knowingly put an innocent person in jail and not be held accountable for it. You have to defund them and term limit them and get them the hell out of office.
We have a lot of bullet points I want to cover, and we're going to go back to each and every one of them. But I want to ask Susan, when was it that your hand was broken? When did
November 14th, 2017.
2017. Okay, so a couple years before that is when these people were saying that you were when was it you were going after people in the parking lot or something like that?
So what happened was I was in the court file room, and there's a lot of questions about where was I. I was in the court file room, and I was researching for an investigation I'm doing on private judging. And that involves going through lots of dockets and court files that you can only see in the court file room because they're not open to the public to be able to get remotely. And so I was in the court file room, and all of a sudden 6 or 7 police officers came rushing in, started holding this dad down in a chair. And I was startled, and I went back to my bag. I mean, you can watch the security camera. I'll tell you it over and over again, and it matches the video, but I went back and I got my phone and I started to record, and the police officer said, stop recording. And I said, I'm doing my job, because he was in my way, blocking my view from it. He was stopping me I couldn't go anywhere else. The court file room dead ended. And he said, stop recording. And he reached over and he pulled my phone out, and the security camera. Then when I got my phone back later, I noticed he had recorded in the court file room. So he's the one that got all the sound of the police officers and the yelling and everything else that was going on.
He was rifling through your phone as he's holding you back with a broken hand.
Yes.
He's rifling through your phone, checking God knows what. So
that caused me
to get my timeline right, because that happened in 2018, you said,
2017.
Right?
November 14th, 2017.
Okay. So then 2 years later, not 2 years earlier, 2 years later, they say, since March 2019, Miss Bassi's conduct has escalated in various ways. Miss Bassi has adopted a much more aggressive tone in both rhetoric and volume when interacting with district attorney's office employees and other county employees. How could you? I mean, didn't you learn your lesson when they broke your hand to stay in place? And I mean, come on, these people are gaslighting you.
Yeah,
they want to make you seem, they're gaslighting everybody into making us think that you're just some unhinged woman. How they're writing all this. You were assaulted. We both spoke on the phone earlier, and we talked about how horrible it was that you were hurt and everything. But the most egregious thing was when the guy took your phone and started going through it. That was disgusting. That's a violation.
Because my sources are in there, and actually people text me things about cases that I'm then looking up. So I don't know what he saw, but to me, I'll go to jail, I'll go to prison, I'll do whatever to protect my sources, because what they are doing to me right now is they are trying to give all my sources a message. Mm-hmm. If you speak up or you support Miss Bassi or you tell her anything, all that happened to her, and look what happened to her, will happen to you.
Yep, intimidation.
That's what they're doing.
Because you've exposed them on talk about private judges. What is that all about? Please explain that to us.
Okay, so I have been for the last 6 years studying private judging. And this is an example of one person's file. Okay, they give me this, and she's one of the more organized. So when I want to start investigating somebody's story, I say, look, you got to tell it to me as if I'm pitching it to a reporter or somebody. I want to hear it in 30 seconds, and you want to make me sound like I want to listen to it more, because I have thousands of these cases. And this lady has been to prison. She is from Canada. So your Canadian guy, let's give her a shout out. Her name is Tanya McCash, and she is from Canada. She had a little house in Canada that she sold, and she moved down to Silicon Valley, and her husband was starting a tech business. She gave her separate money to him to start that business and run the business. They lived in San Jose, California for a long period of time. And then she started to notice little things. And, I'm going to tell you, when you investigate family court, I don't care about what happened between the couple. It's not a he said, she said issue for me. That is the number one reason people will not cover family court. I'm looking at what happened overall. What was the outcome? Because family courts are not criminal courts. They're supposed to just divide families and send them on their way. And I started hearing these cases that were dragging out 5 to 10 years. And all the women that were the soccer moms and the baking the cupcake moms, that I knew a lot of these moms, they started to go to jail. I went to a country club dinner and they were all sitting around about all of their jail experiences and running into their little league friend in jail. And I thought, are you kidding me? And I started to realize that in certain divorce cases, there was a pattern and a practice. So anybody who has ever dealt with the criminal justice system knows that prosecutors, it's not what you think, it's not what you believe, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And so we have had to work for 6 years trying to prove what these people are doing, and they hide it. And what they do is they get you into, they tell you, oh, it'll be cheaper and faster to use a private judge. And so you go in and you pay an attorney, and you pay them to be your judge, a fake judge. It's like a private cop is what it's like.
Yeah.
And so you go in and you give them your money, and they act as a judge. And they're supposed to do some things that a judge is supposed to do. They're supposed to take their oath. So when I used to listen to you guys running around going, do you know your oath? Do you know your oath? I always thought, that sounds kind of crazy. Well, judges have to take an oath, and lawyers have to take an oath, and doctors have to take an oath. So when you guys are asking, do you know your oath? Do you take it seriously? That resonated with me, because that is important to private judging. So before you become a private judge, you have to do all these things. There's procedures in the law. You take your oath. And even though you're just an attorney and you've never been elected or appointed, you get to be a judge. And you get to decide how much you're going to bill for people to pay you. And they tell the families that this will be cheaper and faster.
It's a Ponzi scheme is what it is. It's a Ponzi scheme for lawyers. And they have something in Florida, they call it mediators. And the mediators don't even have to be members of the bar. They just have to have a certification in mediation. And what they try to do is push everyone into this. Go ahead, I'm listening to you.
But and I want to be really clear, because there's been a lot written and a lot talked about arbitrators and mediators, and they are a little bit different, because if you mediate, you, first of all, can choose your mediation to not be binding around a lot of issues. The problem with private judging is it's like taking a plea. It means that you're giving up all your rights to hear your case heard in public court. And you are going before an attorney in a private office who is billing you, and they have other attorneys that bring them a steady stream of business. So they're not so much interested in your case, but how much money they can make off your case. Yes. And what lawyers are bringing them that business. And that's what it's all about. And so in my personal divorce case, and I'll tell you, my husband and I bought a house in 1996 for $200,000. My private judge charged $100,000, never took his oath, and appointed an unlicensed real estate agent to sell off that property. And all the money went to my husband's lawyer for fines, fees, and sanctions against me. And it sat in attorney trust accounts for 2 years. And this was all done through the courts. They kicked me out of that property within 7 days, and they kicked me out of another within 2. And that private judge did all of that and never held his hand up and took his oath. And when I reported him to the state bar said he needs an ethics class. And that is the equivalent of internal affairs not doing anything when they can see a video of their deputy breaking your hand and seizing your phone. So these are all interrelated, because they all learn the system. But what we don't know is we don't know what they're doing, and we get tricked and we get trapped. And if I do one thing in my life, and that is keep somebody from having a private judge ruin their life. That's what I want to do. And I'm going to work every single day, whether I have to record the police to show what we're talking about or not. That's what I'm going to
Cameras
do.
Everywhere has shared the link in the chat a couple times. If you could do that again, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Hey, Susan.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. I think there should be some type of legislation like caps on divorce lawyers, their earnings.
Absolutely.
I mean, they make money on how bitter and just, divisive it could be. And the longer they could drag it out, the more money they suck out of human beings, the more money they take from their families. I mean, it shouldn't be.
And there's no limit.
Yeah.
And on private judging, until 2001, the state legislature watched it. So they had to report how long they were taking in a case and how much they were charging. And then they stopped watching. They issued a report and they stopped watching. Well, the moment they stopped watching, what do you think those attorneys started doing in private judging cases?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, want to hear the worst one? The worst one was Kathy Feick. And Kathy Feick was married to an attorney. He was a tech litigator. That means somebody that's making a lot of money in court and somebody who probably knows a lot of dirty legal tricks. Sure. And Kathy Feick went to an attorney by the name of Lynn Yates Carter, and she was a little housewife, and she said, my husband is abusive. Now imagine me being married to a very bad abusive cop. It's very similar with divorce attorneys. And this divorce attorney wrote down all her secrets and they talked strategy. And the next thing she knew, that divorce attorney was representing her husband.
Oh.
And they tried to get that attorney disqualified, and the courts refused to disqualify her. And then her attorney that she did get never asked for attorney's fees. And then he said, I have to withdraw because you're not paying me. Now in family court, an attorney can go and ask for attorney's fees to level the playing field so you both have an attorney. They just don't do it because they decide early on who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's going to go into private judging. And so Kathy Feick ended up going, and they allowed her attorney to withdraw. His name was Paul Ness. And as soon as he withdrew, I have all the orders. The judge said, oh, she won't be prejudiced by having to represent herself. And she had to represent herself against her husband, who was an attorney, and he hired 2 attorneys that he could afford to pay. And she had to represent herself. And then one day, the judge said, this is too complicated for me. We need a private judge. And so Kathy Feick was going against 2 attorneys, her husband attorney, and a private judge. And they sold her house. They took her 14-year-old child, and they sanctioned her $1 million. And that's not even the worst part.
Wow.
She's living in the mountains, not very far from me. She's terrified that her husband is going to continue to hurt her. And the worst part, the Santa Clara County District Attorney decided to prosecute her based on the order of that private judge. And he prosecuted her for 3 years. And on the eve of trial, he went down to the court and they looked through the file and they said, oh, there's 41 volumes. And she's been sanctioned at that point, it was $833,000. So they were prosecuting her for taking $1 out of a bank account in violation of the private judge's order. And they decided, since she's already been sanctioned $833,000 and prosecuted for 3 years and lost her only son in custody, she hasn't seen him since, and her house where she had lived raising that son, she had been punished enough. So the Santa Clara County District Attorney, Jeff Rosen, who I have been after since 2013, has literally decided that he is going to punish people for getting a divorce and not being fined and sanctioned enough.
Oh,
and that's why I do what I do when it comes to private judging.
Wow. That's just horrible.
That's this guy right here. Look at him. You could just tell he looks like
him.
A snooty guy.
Slime ball. Yeah. You could tell he's a slime ball. Yeah.
His name is Jeff Rosen, and he wants to be the Attorney General in California. He's been asking the governor to appoint him as Attorney General.
We're also going to cover public records today too, and majorly awesome. Guess what? This guy has to approve any records that requests that go through that courthouse. The DA has to say whether or not Susan Bassi can record the public records that they have readily available there. They wouldn't let her do it until then. Let me jump to that video so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This was oh, I have it on super fast forward so I can. Anybody else do that? Playback speed on double?
People would say I talk a lot. They don't need to hear it on double.
All right, let me jump to this one spot here.
Oh, David Angel, my records guardian.
All right. Turn this up all the way. Let me know how you guys hear this, if it's good enough.
And I'm not trying to be argumentative with you or dispute the law.
Yes, he is actually.
Where's the policy that says that? Where's the policy that says when a member of the public asks to inspect the records, it has to go to David Angel? You don't have the policy right now? You guys aren't? So you don't know what your policy is?
Yes, I did follow that.
That's what you've been told. Did you ever see a policy that said that?
I didn't follow that.
So when you were hired with the district attorney's office,
You'd like to sit down and fight it out.
They're so mansplaining you.
wait for the records?
Yeah, except you're not going to get.
Like when they first bring you out, the guy's like, "Hey, you want to take this? You want to talk to the little lady?"
Yeah. They don't want me to worry my pretty little head about those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me jump to another spot here. Hold on. This is some really important stuff. Everybody go watch this in video in its entirety, but I want you to hear this.
Material license then.
Not one thing.
Okay, and then now after all this time, he's now directing you through the Attorney General.
Yep, they call me crazy, they discredited me with other attorneys, they tried to defame me, and they tried to make it seem that my complaint was out there, my complaint was there, and I found no stuff. So we both
Direction.
Listen to this.
Here, and Miss Bassi being Miss Bassi, and I caught her on camera turning on the camera/video function on her iPad. I can't confirm she's not recording or not, but she is very Miss Bassi-like. If you can please give me a call, we can get some direction from you.
Yeah, we should all be Miss Bassi like. That's something I strive for. I aspire to. And was this the same day you met up with these guys?
That was when I met Tulare Copwatch and Sam. I didn't know what you guys were doing, but I had seen some of the videos, and so it resonated with me when he introduced himself. But at the beginning of that, and I don't know if it's in this one or another one, but at the beginning, you can see when I'm walking out of the courthouse because I'm so dumbfounded. There's these guys with tattoos and they're sitting there with cameras in my face and I'm being prosecuted for taking a picture in the courthouse. So it was a little discombobulating, but then I realized if you look at my reaction, I'm just amazed. They asked for permission I'm going to tell you something that I've never told anybody before about that day. When it finished, I wrote the judge a letter because I had watched one of the First Amendment auditors go in and ask the bailiff something, do a little fist pump with him. And I'm like, what are they doing? And he went in and asked the bailiff if he could record. And he went up to the judge and he talked to the judge for a minute, but I didn't know what he had asked him. And I never asked the First Amendment auditor. So I wrote the judge a letter, and that is Judge Brown in Sacramento County. And he is the only judge who has ever called me back when I've asked for a comment. And he was a good guy. He talked to me for a long time. And I asked him, what did that young man ask him that day? And he said he asked if he could record the courthouse. And he said, it's a beautiful old courthouse. Of course, the public should be able to record it. And when I sat in Judge Brown's courtroom that day, I've sat in a lot of courtrooms, and I'm pretty good at being able to determine how dirty a judge or a lawyer is. And I have to tell you that in my professional opinion, Judge Brown is a good judge, and he made the right ruling. And what he did, the reason that I know and believe in my heart that Judge Brown is a good judge is when they were talking about judges, it was a taxpayer lawsuit suing the Attorney General for not prosecuting judges for committing crimes. And when Judge Brown started to think about judges committing crimes, I just watched his face. And I was so mad that I hadn't done a media request, because the way his face looked, if I could show everybody how that judge looked when he thought about another judge committing a crime, it was so perfect. It was how we want every police officer to think when they see another police officer commit a crime. It was how we want every attorney to think when they see one of their colleagues commit either a crime or violate their ethics and shatter public trust in our court system. And so that's why when I sat there that day, it was so remarkable, because I not only met the First Amendment auditors, but I could tell Judge Brown, and I knew it. And then he called me back when I wrote him a letter and asked him what that young man had asked that day.
Yeah, Wolfie Gladley has told me that was a magical day, not just because of meeting you guys, but there was a bunch of other stuff that happened with N2 Film, one of my favorite channels out there. But what do you think about all this, Majorly Awesome? There's a lot to digest, but I really am curious to hear your take on all these private judges and all this shenanigans in the Santa Clara County Courthouse.
Well, first let me start off by saying that I think a lot of Americans would do well to spend more time understanding our judicial system, and understanding the difference between the Article 1 and Article 4 courts and the Article 3 courts, like the family courts that Miss Bassie's talking about, like the traffic courts. There's a lot of courts that people would think were unconstitutional, but there are provisions in the Constitution for it. See, what we have to understand is that our lives are ran by lawyers, and they always have been. Most of the founders were lawyers. The Constitution is a legal document, okay? And basically what's been going on this whole time is you got lawyers in the legislature, and they write the laws, and you got judges who are lawyers and bar members, and they say what the law means. And then you have lawyers that are out there getting elected in most positions, most legislative positions. I mean, even most of the presidents have been lawyers. So basically you got the bar, which is a private union, okay, much like the Teamsters, okay, and you can't practice law in America unless you're a member of this private union, okay, and like Miss Bassie said, with the lawyer, and he has to take an ethics class, and that's basically it. When lawyers do something wrong, they go to other lawyers to dish out the punishment to them. It's sort of like the thin blue line, except for lawyers, and they don't talk about it, But if you look into each state, it's not the state of Florida that says if a lawyer here in Florida can practice law. It's, I think in Florida, it's the Supreme Court, who, again, are bar members, and it's like that in every state. It's bar members that say if other bar members are allowed to practice in the state. And if the lawyer does something that's not right, it's an ethics issue. And then it goes before the state bar, and they decide if that lawyer needs to get punished or not. It's not any sort of state regulatory agency, it's not like a doctor or, those kind of positions. So it's something that everybody really needs to focus on, because these are the people, again, that are running our lives, and they're the ones that make the laws. They're the ones that exempt themselves from the laws, and that's where a big disconnect comes from. And that's where most Americans are waking up, is that little disconnect between us having to obey the law and then us seeing the nightly news where politicians are breaking the law, but they get off, and cops are breaking the law, but they get off, and judges are breaking the law and they get off. So there's that little sliver of disconnect there that people are finally seeing, and they're waking up to it. And again, it's
a couple of examples in your video, Susan, with that one judge that said, "You better check that plate, boy," and the cop was like, "Oh, have a nice day, Judge." And you let him go. Oh gosh, it's
they use their own language when they write. They talk to each other in their own language, the statutory language, and they don't want anybody to get the Rosetta Stone to figure them out, because they use words like shall and may and all these words that can be interpreted 25 different ways, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. which is the judge who's a lawyer, and he looks
Yes.
out for other lawyers, or she
Well,
looks out for
and you got to remember, you guys, when you're in family court and you're representing yourself, you have to become a lawyer. You have to. My husband's lawyer had 50 years of legal experience, and he graduated from Stanford Law. And I had to be able to defend myself as my own lawyer with that same level of expertise. And you're absolutely right about the bar associations. But what if everybody would start doing this? And that is, think whatever you see in police that you think are a problem, how does that apply to lawyers? Because internal affairs not doing anything about police officers is the same thing as the bar not doing anything about lawyers, and the same thing as the Commission on Judicial Performance not doing anything about judges.
Yeah, and since they're not taking responsibility, we must take responsibility.
And people are afraid. They're very, very afraid to record. I mean, I understand how scary this is, and that when you record lawyers and judges, it's really, really important. But it is a way that these people have gotten away with this for so long because they aren't recorded. So look at how much trouble the police had when we started recording them. We have just as much right to record a lawyer and a judge on the public sidewalk, and how they behave in a restaurant, and how they behave in a store, and how they treat their families, and what church they go to, because it all matters. Because when they're sitting on the bench and they decide if you're going to jail and how long you're going to jail, and they have all kinds of decisions about what evidence to keep out and what evidence to let in, everything that is the sum of their individualness is in play. And we have a right to know about that. We have a right to know how they think, just like we do police officers and attorneys.
They're being paid by our tax dollars.
Not just recording, but we also have to be prepared for whenever we have to go to that family court, which we talked about. That covers your children, that covers your probate, that covers your divorce, that covers so many things. God forbid you have to go into that place. You better know what you're in there for, what's involved. Like, one thing we just found out, we had a loss in our family, and we realized we have to make a will for kids to be taken care of. Because you could have a godfather for your kids, right? But unless, if God forbid you both get into a car accident and you're gone, your kids go to the state unless you have them named in a will. And it doesn't matter that you went to a church with someone. If you didn't go and get a lawyer to say that this is where you want your kids to go, they go to the state.
Do you know why that is?
Yeah, because the state gives you your kids at the hospital once you sign a Social Security number, and they leave them in your care until they deem it's not right. And that's disturbing. That's not how our country should work.
Well, it's under the legal doctrine of parent parente, and basically it comes to us from England. And back then, if there was a award of the state, like let's say a deficient child, mentally deficient child, or somebody that couldn't take care of themselves, then the king was, had to take care of his subject. And they basically brought that over here to America now. So in the state's eyes, the children are their property. And this has even been recorded in court cases where the judge has said that it's not they don't give us the child because we're the parent, but they give us the child because we are the best one of its citizens to care for said child. And that's why at any time the state can come in and take your child and like Ms. Bassi said, put you through this family court because it's a legal doctrine that's part of our society that they've never told anybody about. Just like a domicile, which is part of probate court. I mean, there's all these legal doctrines. They've been around for some for 1,000 years. Domicile is one that connects everybody in the world. It works in every country, and it's what subjects us to our local law, our national law, is the legal doctrine of domicile, and that's been around since Roman times. But 99.9999999% of Americans have never even heard that word, much less know what it means, and it has such a vast effect on all of our lives. And
I
nobody knows about it.
I think we're going to have a hard time getting people to understand all that. I mean, I try to think back to where I was 10 years ago, and I didn't have the kid problems like a lot of people I have watched. But I can't tell you how many times I sat in court and I watched one attorney just say something about, well, the mother drinks, the father drinks, they just start flailing these accusations. And the next thing you know, they're saying you have to go on supervised visits. I mean, I didn't even know what this was, but these parents are getting put on supervised visits. It costs them anywhere from $50 to $150 an hour to see their kid. And it is a form of abuse that the other parent is paying an attorney to get those orders to then put you under more. I mean, these people are, I had one mom that didn't have enough money to be able to pay for supervised visits to see her child for more than 2 hours on his birthday. I mean, think about that child right there. And what the judges do is they just use this blanket we call a rote recital. They just say it's in the best interest of the children. And it's never in the best interest of the children because these judges have never been good parents and they don't know how to raise children. And so they literally put you in court because you are in a divorce. You involuntarily go to court and you have to go. And they're dragging it out and they're appointing, in addition to private judges. And I want to say one more thing about this before we move on. But in addition to private judges, they appoint custody evaluators. They appoint visitation supervisors. They have these things called reunification camps where they come in and grab the psychologists. But the reunification camps are the worst. If the parents have enough money, they put you in these. They make your kids go to these camps where they tell you over and over again that you love your parent. The one that they're claiming that if one parent said bad things about the other one, they say, you've alienated the child from the parent. So they bring you to these reunification camps that cost $40,000 charged to the parents. And they then put them, I've heard stories of locking children in hotel rooms, depriving them of water until they say they'll love their dad and go live with him. And then they go live with the dad and they get no contact with the mother. So they're just shifting this back and forth. And we're always talking about from the standpoint of the father or the mother, but we're never talking about what are these children seeing, because we're raising 2 generations of children who know they had 2 parents, and then they know that they were told the one parent is bad, can't come to the school, can't see their parent, has to have a visitor there at $50 an hour to supervise. And they don't check the visitor to make sure they're not an alcoholic or a crazy fiend. They just let somebody get paid $50 an hour to watch you play with your kids. And then they report everything back to your spouse and his divorce attorney or her divorce attorney. That's what's going on.
That's criminal.
It is criminal. Okay, can I tell you one more thing about this?
Please.
Because this relates to my video that has 2.3 million views.
Yeah.
So Tanya McCash is like me. And when it didn't sound right, she stood up. And when she went to jail, they called her the Martha Stewart of jail because she is so proper. She's so Canadian. She's so polite. She's had her children ripped from her home sold out from under her, all of her money taken, all of her dignity taken, and she still fights like that. And she is literally from Canada, and she has been harassed more than anybody. Her private judge was Michael Smith, and she's given me the orders. I've gone through all of her case, and I've seen what happened to her. And she contacted John Chase in the district attorney's office to tell her about Michael Smith, just as I contacted John Chase to tell him about my private judge. And John Chase blew her off. So the district attorney in Santa Clara County doesn't have enough money to investigate corruption, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and filing false documents, perjury, all the things that are going on in these private judge cases. But they have enough money to prosecute me for recording the police in the Santa Clara County courthouse. So I just want everyone to understand, if I do nothing, please don't ever agree to use a private judge in your case. Please understand the relationship between the district attorney and everybody else in your county and the discretion that they have, because they have discretion just like police officers have discretion. And it's very important that we pay attention to that. It's very important that we speak up to other people, because before you know it, this is going to be you if you don't.
Amen.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Amen.
Yeah, let me go back to that video where you met these guys. Check this out. I thought this was really neat.
I love your spirit. Susan.
Thank you.
Yes. That's something that
I am
think
driven
inspires
by
us
all these stories. I'm driven by the people whose stories we need to tell.
Now, is this lady a judge or no?
No, she's the attorney for the Attorney General's office.
Oh, whoosh.
There's Salma King,
and-
and then N2 Film and his girlfriend, and Nate Skates, I believe.
Individuals who are known as First Amendment auditors and cop watchers on YouTube. They record the police. And they gave me the courage to start recording the judges.
I
and
think
the
that's
lawyers
Tulare.
we were investigating who were violating the law as well. Because these attorneys and these judges are committing crimes. And they are involved in public corruption. And that's what we investigate.
What's going on here, Susan?
So we went to the local bar, and the local bar it's almost like going inside internal affairs. And we had heard about all these events, and really the retaliation against me started when two of my photographers filmed a local bar holiday party. That's
Look
in
at
my,
this. How comfy.
yeah. So this is a judge and a bunch of attorneys, and that judge actually just went to go become a private judge at JAMS. His name is Mark Pierce. And so judges have a great incentive to become private judges because they only make about $200,000 a year on the bench. But if they go into private judging, they can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. So in my private judge case, this is the judge that said that my private judge had immunity, even though he didn't take his. Yeah,
Look at that low light.
This is Mark Pierce. He's now doing private judging, and he said that my private judge, who didn't take an oath and appointed an unlicensed real estate agent, Patty Felice, to sell two of my homes, he is now working for JAMS doing private judging himself.
He ought to be doing private time. That's what he's been doing.
Look, this is the judge that gets pulled over, and then the cop.
I saw this. Yeah. He's like,
check the registration on this plate soon, mister.
Look at that.
And
the cop knows. The cop knows. Nobody's going to talk to me like that unless he's right. Oh, crap. I messed up.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
But the way that judge spoke to him was how you hear judges speak to us when we're in court.
Yeah.
And,
they're gods. They really convince them. So they have that God complex that you see.
Sure.
In that movie Malice with Alec Baldwin with the doctor.
Great movie.
Judges too.
Michael Conahan.
Look at this guy. This guy's sending kids up the river, innocent kids up the river for a payback. Didn't he get sent to jail himself?
Yeah, they put him in federal prison. He was at Coleman at the Low for a brief period of time. I never saw him.
On a school bus.
This judge?
Hosting a parody.
Yeah, him or another one. There was a couple of them from Pennsylvania that were taking bribes, putting kids in juvenile private institutions, and they were hanging themselves and getting raped. It's horrible.
Yeah. Some kid was just having a party with his friends, and they sent him to jail.
Nothing. Exactly. No, I mean, just complete low-level crime.
They go to jail.
And really, you guys, the reason that I put that in there is because making the transition from people understanding private judging versus open public court is very similar to private policing and police officers, and the difference of what they can do and what we have public oversight over and what we don't. And private judging, we don't have public oversight over.
And it's the same thing as it goes in private prisons. The corrections officers don't have to be certified. They go through a little academy through the private, a 2-week course, and that's why if they do anything corruption or whatever, they can't be prosecuted because they're not sworn officers.
Yeah, right. They can charge the inmates $15 for a tube of toothpaste, and then require them to brush 3 times a day. And
if you see the pattern, Susan, look, same thing with us. I'm a soldier in Iraq, and guess what? They got private contractors over there making triple what we make, and they don't have to play by the same rules.
That's right.
You understand? There's no accountability.
And that's what I want everyone to start to understand. When you go to a regular judge, they have to disclose all their financial interests, what they have an interest in that may affect their ruling. A private judge doesn't have to do that. And can I tell you one more thing? I know I keep holding this up, but I want to talk about this private judge, Michael Smith. So when Tanya McCash went to the district attorney and he did nothing about it, Michael Smith kept doing what he had been doing. And I have another video up on my YouTube channel about going to Michael Smith's office. And I went to his office because in my own divorce case, my attorney had first recommended using Michael Smith as a private judge. And I didn't know what private judging was. They didn't. And my attorney was Hoover Kerpolka, which is a big law firm up here. And I could only afford them for 3 months. And he'd billed me $65,000. And I was like, bye-bye. And so, but he had recommended Michael Smith. He didn't tell me what private judging was. He didn't tell me how much it was going to cost. He just told me, hey, let's use either Michael Smith or Ed Barra, two private judges. And he floated it by my husband's attorney. And he said, why would we want to use a private judge when we have the public court? So I thought, oh, that makes sense. Little did I know that just meant he wanted a different private judge that he would get appointed later on. And so because nothing happened to Michael Smith in the McCash case when she complained to the DA's office, Michael Smith kept doing private judging. And he's doing private judging right now. And that attorney that you saw in my video the day I met the First Amendment auditors, he is Pat Evans. And he is coming into a case to defend where Michael Smith had an elderly man who was 77 years old, whose wife stole cash and gold coins in a probate case, hid it, and tried to conceal it, and subjected him to liability, and is in a divorce case. And Michael Smith, the private judge, covered that up for the wife and the wife's attorney. So these private judges are not just committing crimes, they're covering up crimes. And Pat Evans on Monday morning is going to court to finish off what this private judge didn't finish. And it has taken exorbitant legal expense. So they tell us we're going to get in private judging because it's going to be faster and cheaper. Michael Smith came into the case that is going Monday morning in 2016. It has cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are crimes that pass the statute of limitations, and that's what private judging really does to people and their lives.
What's the name of the video that you were referring to on your channel? Is it Never Hire a Private Judge?
No, that was a more recent one. It was one where I went to, you see the lady, she has kind of pink hair in the thumbnail.
Okay.
And it's bright yellow in the background. I don't know what I tried.
Tesla Audit, San Jose Fire, Gilroy Unified School District?
No, not that one.
Further back.
Let me see if I can.
Tesla Audit, San Jose Fire, Gilroy Unified School.
You came up on my chat here. I don't know if I can get it without. You guys, I'm really tech challenged doing things like this when I'm on something else. Let's see. It's the one, you go way back. I did it a long time ago. So it's, well, some of the, I mean, all the attorneys that I'm investigating are sprinkled throughout, but they're the one that is the most important. Which one is it?
Los Gatos.
Yeah, Los Gatos private judges, corrupt cops, that one. Oh, yeah. This is the first time I filmed the police in Los Gatos, and that really pissed them off.
Los Gatos, that's where Netflix is based, right?
That's right.
Of being a First Amendment auditor, an investigative reporter, and a Los Gatos-based publisher means that when you're on your way home from work, after a long day of reviewing Los Gatos Police Department records related to domestic violence cases in the Los Gatos community, you're probably going to stop when you see 5 police cars pulled into the local Chevron station at the corner of Los Gatos Boulevard and Blossom Hill Road.
Yeah, you just went. This is the one where I chased the attorney and he hits me in the courthouse. But then yes, this is me going to Michael Smith's office. And the reason is they were secreting. You just passed it there, right? Starting right there is when I go to his office. Yep, that's Michael Smith's office.
Most of our investigative work is focused on private judge cases. These are cases where attorneys act as judges, despite not
you guys hear that okay?
Or qualifications to do so. These attorneys are making hundreds of thousands of dollars in divorce cases, and this is essentially becoming the privatization of our courts, where fewer than 90% of the people in those cases can afford an attorney, much less a private judge. And it appears that it is these cases that have become the focal point of a criminal enterprise, acting to take money, home equity, and custody of children as a financial incentive for lawyers to make more money and refer their buddies as private judges.
And you can just fast forward without sound. This lady comes out, she doesn't know anything. I mean, they've been doing private judging since it was recommended to me in 2013. So by then they've been doing it for 7 years and she can't explain it to me. But that list that is on the right side, I started to asking for that list in public records requests back in 2016. And for asking, I was called a sovereign citizen and had all the retaliation that you've seen. But what I started to notice,
right? They call you a terrorist.
Terrorist, sovereign citizen, criminal, whatever they feel like calling me for the day. And but if you look, I started to notice I had manually gone through the files, and this list in 2019 didn't have about 90% of the private judge cases that I knew to exist. So what they are doing is they're not only sliding the cases, they are supposed to still post them on the courthouse so that you can find other people in private judging and say, hey, how's that going for you? But instead they secret it. They don't put it on the docket. It's not in the public domain. When you even check, you can't find it. And so they've concealed these cases, and that's where they can, and people pay to get out of criminal conduct and other things.
Jeez.
I love it. I get to deal with people like you guys.
Oh, wow. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry, I tried to. I'm
No
like,
problem.
what do you sneeze? Do when you sneeze?
What I'm doing, and I find it to be very gratifying because most of the cases, unlike Garcia Lopez, get settled and stay settled, and everybody is happy with what occurred.
Everybody's happy, huh?
Yeah, and that's not true. And I mean, here's Tanya McCash. She's not happy, and she was in private judging with him for 4 years. And he took her kid, he took her house, he took everything. And then the police started chasing her. She was arrested. It's just like Kathy Feick. So every private judge that you tell me their name, I'll tell you 20 cases where they made millions of dollars, put the mothers in jail, took the kids, and sold off the family home to make their living. And, I found 210 cases with one private judge by the name of James Cox. And he's doing all the judges and lawyers' divorces and keeping it all secret. So, these are the issues. If this is one county and this is happening, imagine on a scale of 57 counties in California. I've been to the Supreme Court.
Ponzi scheme, a criminal enterprise is what it is.
It is a criminal
to become
enterprise.
a private judge, you just have to be a member of the bar.
That's right, a lawyer.
So to become a judge, to become a bar member in California, you don't have to graduate from law school.
No.
You just have to do an internship with a law firm, have them sponsor you, and pass a bar exam.
And I would say not just you need to be a lawyer, but you need lawyers giving you a stream of business to be a private judge.
Let's stop giving them ideas.
But that's what they're doing, and so they don't go ahead and advertise so that you look in the yellow pages and say, "Oh, I need a private judge today." They get lawyers to trick you and trap you to put you into private judging. And once you're in, it's like being in jail. You're not getting out. You're not going back to public court. You're not disqualifying that private judge. You're not even going to stop him from billing you. He keeps billing and billing. And they said, well, attorneys have to be paid for their work. So please, if you guys start every video for a month and just say, don't hire a private judge, just do that for me. Just somehow work it into a video.
And we'll definitely get the word out. Hopefully.
In a criminal case, you're giving up your right to appeal. You're giving up everything when you go enter into this private contract.
That's right.
And people need to be really educated on this before, if they're going through a divorce, because it seems to me when I was going through mine, they recommend, it's like they get kickbacks from the mediators. They recommend, they're like, I think we can agree on this guy, to give them the business. Disgusting.
And if it were really fair, there would be a list. Everyone would understand how many cases everybody had, how much they were compensated. They would know their financial conflicts, their social conflicts, their professional conflicts. And you would, if it was transparent and you could see it the way you could see a roster on a police list, and you knew those cases were getting randomly assigned and not tilted by a stream of business that certain attorneys were bringing, then it would be fair. But the way that it is right now, where you're not informed, it's like accepting a plea deal. There's a great video right now a criminal defense attorney has about a guy who was in jail, and they tried to get him to accept a plea deal, and he wasn't informed. He didn't even know what the plea deal was, and the judge stopped it and held the criminal defense attorney, the public defender, in contempt because she wasn't doing her job. So if judges would do their jobs and make sure attorneys were doing their jobs, and it was a transparent, as the law says it has to be, this
We
would
wouldn't
not
have
be
Jeffrey Epstein hanging himself, quote unquote.
that's right.
Yeah. Alex Acosta was able to give unnamed people immunity.
You know what?
And he disappeared. He's gone. Nobody's talking about him or Ghislaine Maxwell.
When I saw that, I was like, I've got to see that indictment. How do you give unnamed people in the future immunity forever? They could have done horrific things, and they all had immunity. Who does that?
It's unprecedented.
A prosecutor with unlimited power.
That's
a prosecutor that has absolute immunity. And I had inmates that were indicted and prosecuted by Garcia, who became the labor secretary, I believe, after that.
Acosta.
Yeah, and they were prosecuted for nonviolent drug offenders, and they threw the book at them. And I remember
of Labor, the person who you ultimately go to if you were sexually harassed at work is in charge of giving the Epstein the sweetheart deal. And you know, when
it was horrifying
when he did that, it was something that it triggered their memories, because they didn't let any of the 80 plus victims know anything about this. And he also told the FBI to stop their investigation into the 80 something complaints that they had.
Well, and if you watched all the coverage on it, and you look at what the police there did too, they were giving them a free pass. Yeah. And that's what's happening in Silicon Valley. The Los Gatos police are giving free passes to all these tech and social media founders who have more money than God. And that's what they're doing. They're literally, they're police officers who know we protect the ones that have all the money, and everyone else we get rid of. If you
Palm Beach is the most affluent neighborhood in our state. And you'll see that in the second most affluent neighborhood in our state. The cops are on the takedown there too. I've never seen a more corrupt police department than the Collier County Sheriff's Office. Those people from Lieutenant Fiola, that Nicolas Cage-looking punk, and the other guy, what's his name? Falkenberg. That guy, you've murdered somebody. If you're watching Falkenberg, I know, I could see it in your eyes. You murdered several people, probably. You're a corrupt bastard. And I'm not afraid of it. You could tell that one day. And Susan, you saw one of my older videos. You got it confused when I was telling you
I did.
Yeah, that one, I was with Rogue Nation. Rogue, you remember when we went to Coral Springs down south? That was kind of an affluent neighborhood, and they had that police sergeant who you saw, the woman with the shaved side
blonde.
of her head. Yeah, she is the daughter of a couple of chiefs or something. She's like blue blood royalty, and she could do no wrong. And that's why when she calls the entire day shift as backup for two guys with cameras and looks like a fool, law enforcement today has to do a hack job story where they got me, Rogue Nation, and some made up guy called Ted Magazine who tweeted all these horrific, like, end of watch, I want their wives to be widows, cop murdering stuff, and bunched us up into one person. And that work of fiction was just that, a work of fiction in September of 2019 when they wrote it, up until February 2020 when I was arrested and they attached my real name to it. They didn't call me Wrights Crispy anymore. They said, oh, it's Fenton Vargas. And he's the one who is responsible for all this other stuff that we told you about in September 2019. When, I'm sorry, but I didn't write any of that stuff. And I got a buddy of mine here doing half the work also, right, Major? You were there too. He was like, they just shared your video. They didn't share my video in that article.
Well, when I watched that video, first of all, the police officer, every time I watch a video, it reminds me of somebody that I'm dealing with in court where there aren't any cameras. And so the police officer actually reminded me of the realtor that I have in the video. It's one of my second highest videos. It's the one of Patty Felice coming to my house. And after I posted that, so, you know, I want to give a shout out to all the moms, because you guys, what you get with me is you get the Las Madres moms down in Gilroy. You get the Los Gatos moms that are currently investigating a lot of real estate issues for me. You get people that investigate and do things. And some of them have been sending me videos, and I'm really excited because tomorrow my video is going to be of a mom who kept the cops from coming in her house in Orange County. And I said, can I use this video? So I'm going to do my first San Joaquin Valley transparency promotion of this mom down in Orange County. And what is interesting is she was married to a guy who was an informant for the FBI. And he is as dirty as they come. And his attorney is the attorney who won a private judge case and who I'd been talking to for a really long time. And she started telling me about what this attorney was doing. And he was an attorney that was taking on the private judges in court and winning. And so I thought he was one of the good guys. I have years of emails with this guy, and he's a dirtbag. And he started putting my name in the court file to tell people they were associated with me. So the judges, this is happening every day. Last week, I had a judge, Judge Stuart Scott, literally put a woman on the stand and asked if I had been to supervised visitation and shown her children videos. Now, picture, does that sound like something I'm going to do? Sure. But they're so rattled by transparency that they're bringing it into court pleadings. They're bringing it into the courtrooms. And it's all about hunting out anybody who could be giving me any information.
Yeah. Rogue, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. What was that motion that they did against one of your lawsuits? They said that you're a
sovereign.
Habitual litigant.
Oh, were they talking vexatious? Because I'm vexatious. They said I was vexatious.
Yeah. It was not vexatious, but definitely habitual. And the fact that I had filed, a couple of lawsuits last year. And my thinking is this is, if you weren't doing something wrong, then, we wouldn't be filing these lawsuits, Right. So, but yeah, I just
my favorite shirt. It said habitual line stepper because it didn't belong to me. It was my shirt, but it belonged to Major Lee Awesome.
I call you a habitual patriot.
Right on. But go on, Rogue.
Well, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things here because I got to jump off. But, with the private judging that Miss Bassie's talking about here, the reason that these lawyers are bringing this work to these judges is probably because they are next in line for this private judgeship.
That's right. So, that's like Mark Pierce, where he's now at he literally was one of the ones that let my private judge go. And now he's at JAMS, which is a private judging business. And they're bringing him business. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're punching their ticket. It's a career path. They have to, they got to check the blocks. And then they know they walk into the big money right there.
Well, most judges get to go to JAMS, which is seen as more of an elite private judging. And it's filled with retired judges. But here's the thing that's really interesting is the judge who was the judge that appointed my private judge in my case had her own divorce, and she's now inactive. And I now realize these lawyers ganged up on her and they went after her. And so for years, I was like, just like you guys are with the cops, I thought she was a bad judge. She was a horrible judge. And now with the information people are giving me, we're starting to realize she was victimized by these attorneys too, who took advantage of her, got the appointments. She was out of her mind. She had all kinds of health problems and mental health issues. And she was dealing with her husband and her son and everything else. And then when she finally gets divorced, she ends up with nothing. And so, and she is inactive at the bar and she's not in private judging. So that's how you tell how they're getting the kickbacks and the appointments if they go into private judging.
Yeah. She pissed them off. So they made her pay.
Or they just really knew she wasn't competent, but they knew she wasn't competent when they were getting her to sign all their private judge orders.
Yeah.
And then when it decided it was time to pay her to do that, they didn't want to do it.
Yeah, there's a story there for sure. You know, they ganged up on her because they rarely eat their own, but when they do it, they devour them. They pick the bones clean.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So one other thing, guys, real quick before I hop off here, and I think it's an important point, and I think everybody should be aware of that. And that, again, is the fact that our lives have always been and always probably will be controlled by lawyers. We're a nation of laws. So my recommendation to everybody is before you go to family court, before you're need to know the law, just spend a couple of extra moments a night and try to, learn what you can, because there's two people here in the world today: those who know the law and those who get screwed by the law. There's only two people: those who know the law and those who are getting screwed because they don't know the law.
Well,
So,
there's a third one, and that would be those of us who know the law and are also getting screwed by the law.
yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. And it's a powerful machine. It really is. And that's why, people are scared and people are intimidated. But, just like the founders and the people that gave up, everything for freedom, there has to be a line that we will not allow them to cross. And, we just got to keep going at it. And it's been, people have been programmed by the government to overlook this kind of stuff. That's what the whole public school system was set up for. It wasn't set up to educate us so we could sit around and question what the government's doing. It was set up so that way they could operate in the shadows with their private judging and their, this and that, and, qualified immunity and all this other stuff. And for Americans to just go about their lives, just worry about working and paying the bills and running, Johnny to soccer practice and, never having time to sit and watch our citizens. I just did a story of a gentleman who goes to the county commission meetings, and he said, for the last 5 years, there's been only 4 or 5 people, at each one of these county commission meetings. And that's, we're allowing them to steal from the cookie jar because no one's watching. Everybody else is like, oh, somebody's watching, or there's a government regulatory oversight committee that's watching, or, there's a judge that's watching, and surely all these people can't be bad. And, they don't think of it as being bad,
they're in that bubble where they're all just,
it's a bubble.
They're yes men for each other.
Well, it's their birthright, dude. Look at the way that judge talked to that officer, dude. That is birthright. Yeah. That is the king telling the peasant what is up.
I got to give a shout out real quick to Jersey Watcher. I saw on his Instagram story, he did a screenshot of their complaint against him. We told him that he needed to apologize to the council member, and he said to us to apologize to his cocoa nuts. I love that dude, Jersey Watcher. Also, what you were saying about being prepared before you go in. We recently had a couple people reach out to us because they were being terrorized by the Gulfport PD, and the Gulfport PD is cheating. I know Rob Stone Sather is going nuts over that because he's a stickler about going by the book, and these guys are cheating the book, and they're the ones who go to other agencies and tell them what they're doing wrong. So if you're a law enforcement agency, go to my channel and go to watch that Gulfport PD story, and you see that the guy that was gigging you is cooking the books for himself, making himself look good, trying to get that award that they get. But this is what I wanted to ask you before you go, Rogue. Thanks for being here again tonight. Is that our mutual friend Peter O'Keefe, fellow Double Dog, shout out to Peter O'Keefe. He pointed something out when Ray Rodriguez asked Commander Stone to allow me to go into that meeting with him. He uninvited me. And I think Susan accidentally logged off.
No.
But he uninvited me. And Peter O'Keefe says, hey, ask Rogue what he thinks about this. That's a violation of his Sixth Amendment right. You don't have to be a member of the bar to be counsel to someone. Do you?
You know, it's tricky. Now, there's a couple of things. There's what's known as a McKinsey friend. And a McKinsey friend is basically someone who, it's basically a family member that would help, the person who might not be, mentally capable of understanding some of the legal terms and stuff like that to sit in and kind of help them. They can't represent them. They can't stand up and speak for them like a lawyer would.
Let me ask the right guy. I'm going to look that up. McKenzie friend.
But what state allows that? It sounds like a victim's advocate that you can have if you're a victim of domestic violence and have to represent yourself.
It is pretty much that. And I do know it's here in Florida. I'm not sure if it's, 50 states wide. I'm pretty sure every state can decide on its own as far as that goes. And I haven't looked up all the states, but I definitely know that's here in Florida that's viable. But there's also something else. It was a court case, and basically it was a court case. It was a union, and members of the union were involved in this court case. And the court had said that if members of the union wanted to help other members in the union with the court case, that it would be allowed. And I can't remember what the case name of it is. I have to look it up. But when the Constitution was originally conferred, the right to counsel did not mean a lawyer. I mean, there were no lawyers pretty much back here, back in those days. And people kind of handled their own legal affairs. I think back when the revolution happened, I believe they said there were like 90 law books in the whole country. Okay. Yeah, no, really. In the whole 13 colonies. Because you gotta remember, this stuff was expensive back then. Law books were expensive. I mean, they were big and I mean, the common man back then, could barely even read,
Yeah.
So
they wanted it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And
it was only until 1900 that the feudal system pretty much collapsed, and everybody started getting, that knowledge that was only available to the rich elite. That, like you said, Rogue, and when you gave me a copy of that book from 1897, it's called The Elements of Civil Government. And that thing pretty much covers, everything from the family all the way up to, the president, like every bit of government. And they didn't want anybody to know all that stuff, but it's the truth because it was pre-antebellum. They have real truth in there because.
And Rob talked about this earlier too, and that's the issue of the prosecutors. We're putting, in Santa Clara County, the DA has a budget of $157,000 a year. And the public defenders aren't matched with that. So, are you guys hearing feedback on my headset?
Yeah, there's a little bit.
You're not counting the federal grants they get. Grants.
That's actually why I'm arrested, because I had just done a records request for the state and federal grants that the county gets to deal with victims under victim services. So, I was only looking at domestic violence cases and the millions of dollars they get, because women were telling me, and men, and I have a lot of men, but this is a hard thing for people to realize, but you guys, men have PTSD from this too. And if they have an abusive spouse that's financially controlling them, this is not a gender thing. And so we're supposed to help people do this safely and move on and everything else. And there's millions and millions, if not trillions of dollars in money going into states and counties to help people with domestic violence. And it's under the Domestic Violence Against Women Act. And they do say the name women, but it does apply to men too. And what's happening is this money is pouring into the counties and none of it is reaching any victims. And that's really what started.
We actually have a friend doing this who was a battered husband. And he's brave enough to overcome all of that and fight that system that screwed him and is still screwing him.
I want to talk about that for a minute, because there's a lot of, you guys have I was surprised when I saw my demographics in the beginning when I started doing my YouTube videos, because it is heavily male. And I come from a world that's heavily female, even though I had all boys and everything, because I was in all the moms groups. And that's where I live. That's where I've been to college and sororities and things like that. But I have to say that my own prejudice and stereotypes about men and domestic violence before I started actually investigating it was that obviously men have physical power over women, and so it could never be a problem. But I think that some of what I have seen women do to men is more evil, is more cunning, is more abusive. And I am not going to take it easy on my gender when it comes to women that are doing that, because in family court, they're the ones hiring the divorce attorneys and the private judges, and they're the ones beating the crap out of their spouse, taking their children, playing mind games with them, making them bankrupt, and doing all the things that we're used to thinking only men do. There are women that do this. This is not a gender exclusive issue. And men have a harder time because as a society, we don't want to really admit that a man might be in that situation. And for all of you that have had to do time in jail, who have been in prisons, I have seen what the impact is on this, on your mental health, on your lives, on your confidence, on your careers, on your employment, on your families. And we are doing this. We are systemically causing institutional corruption to ruin lives. And so I want you all to know this is not a gender issue. I am dealing with these issues because of how it impacts all of us and ultimately our children. That's it.
Thank you. and you're here we got San Joaquin.
Hi, San Joaquin.
Right.
We were already bragging about you and talking about you.
And we have Brian from last week's show. Thanks for being here. Let me ask you, Susan, what did you study? You went to the Davis campus of the University of California.
Davis.
Yeah.
So I started out as international relations because that sounded really cool. And David's going to give me a hard time about this, but my Spanish is so bad that my nieces are fluent in Spanish, and they have forbidden me from speaking in Spanish because I'm so bad in my Spanish.
Mis hijos no están hablando español todavía.
And I understand a little bit.
Understanding Spanish. I got to get on him.
But I'm still
seriously,
aware
you do the job of two people when you have two languages.
And Americans are so ignorant that we don't. I mean, I admit to this, and I really do try. And I worked in farming for years and years, so I know all the bad words in Spanish. I'm the güero in Spanish. I have my farm boots. I go out and I work with the field workers, and I know how all this works. But my Spanish is Spanglish, and that's just how it is.
I'm a polyglot. I speak several languages, and when I get grief in the comments from people who say, "This is America, talk America," I just think I answer. I say, "What pisses you off more? Is it my freedom to speak whatever language I want, or my ability? Which is it? One of those things bothers you."
Well, I have to tell you, my sister was blonde and as white as they come, and she was very fluent in Spanish and married a Spaniard. And I used to love when we would go in line and people would be like, "Oh, the güeras," and they would start talking about us, and my sister would tell me what they were saying. And so, it's our ignorance, and it's, so
and
I did start out. And I'll tell you what I did is I switched majors because I was so bad at languages, and I had to learn two in addition to English, and I thought I can't do that. So I switched to business, and they have it as economics, and I minored in English because I didn't make time to read books, and I knew I wanted to read more, and so I forced myself to minor in it so that I would. But I also worked all the time through school, and I didn't go to school as often as I should have.
Look, my best friend is also from the San Francisco Bay Area. I shared his video. He's a musician. He's an artist. And he also collaborated to make my outro music. But he's Black, and he speaks perfect Spanish. And he grew up in the Bay. So it was just learning in school. And he also majored in business. And that's helped him a lot, But it's helped him a lot in those situations where they didn't know he spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
And he was like, "¿Qué lo que acabas de decir?" What did you just say to me?
Well, and I do think, when I listen to you guys and what, when you were doing the show the other day, Rob, you were doing it with somebody who was talking about Rights Crispy, and Rob, you were doing it with somebody who had been in jail, and they were telling you what it was about.
Josh,
And
Shout
I
out
realized,
to Doc TV 813, DOC TV 813.
but see, when you guys talk about those things and you talk about what it was like, it's the same as me talking about what college was like, because we go through a system and we do certain experiences and get an education. You guys are just as educated when you've been through prison as I am going through college. You learned things that I would never learn in a million years, and intuition about how to react and how systems work and the things they do. And so that is really important. And if we do nothing else together, I really hope that what we do is teach people that we shouldn't judge what your education is. It's what you do with it that matters the most. And you guys all amaze me. You're some of the most brilliant media people and I have formal training with mainstream media. And what you guys have done is nothing short of a miracle. And San Joaquin forever will be grateful to you for the meeting that day, the time you took to come to Los Gatos. And you guys all teach me. If I could watch your videos 24 hours a day to learn more, I always would. And I always appreciate everything you're teaching and telling us. And you're changing the world, one camera at a time, one recording at a time.
I call them constitutional frontline workers. That's what right. I call them.
That's right.
And they are amazing. You're right. And I learned more in my first 3 years in the Navy than I ever learned in any classroom anywhere. And I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I got it while on active service. It took me 13 years, but I got it. Traveling and just, doing different things and meeting different people, that's the best way to get an education. That's how you really learn how the rubber meets the road. And I recommend it to any young person. I say, go travel,
Yeah. I learned about this from this guy down here, Major Lee Awesome. Like, when I saw him doing what he does, I had already seen other people, doing this, but not the right way, like he's doing it.
Well, and I want to talk about that a little bit too, because I'm probably the biggest prude on YouTube. And, I realize that you guys use a lot of language that I would have washed your mouth out with soap with when, if you were my kid. And, but I realize what you're doing is important, because if police officers can't do their job and push past the language to see the issue of the law,
what the fuck are you talking
about? but that to me, and at first that was a barrier to me. I would hear it and I would be offended, and I had a hard time getting past it. But when I really look at the brilliance of what all of you are doing when you're having your police interactions, and how you use your language sparingly, or what you say to them, and Rights Crispy, I was talking about that video that I was watching with you of yours the other day, the old one. Yeah. And I was thinking, he's showing me how many public records I would request. Who put up that sign? Who said that was a rule you couldn't go to the second floor? Who said what was the policy? I would do a records request for all the other things. And do you have that document that I sent you about the bulletin from Bakersfield?
Yes, I do.
Can we put that up for a second? Because this is a public record that I got this week. So when I do public records requests, I try to go to several police departments and I try to ask for the same thing. And that's no different than when I was working in organic farming. You have to have something to compare it to. You have to have a ring test. So I've been doing this, and I sometimes get one request and do 10 police departments, and sometimes I do, half spattering of things. But I did a request to the Bakersfield Police Department, and I got some, and I'm going to start doing this in every area where I know you guys are doing First Amendment auditing. I just have to get it down to your state's public records laws. But this bulletin came up about what police were saying about First Amendment auditors. And I found this incredibly interesting, because what they were saying is that you are coming there to incite them and to get arrested in order to get a First and Fourth Amendment claim. And so this is a bulletin. And when that goes out to all the law enforcement, that's what they're thinking. My chief has said this person is bad. They are trying to get arrested and cost our city a lot of money. And if I look at every First Amendment auditor and the cases that they have, I don't find First and Fourth Amendment lawsuits against these police departments. But right there it is. Contact with First Amendment auditors. And this is the police chief telling the common tactic in these encounters is to demand information such as the individual's qualifications, training, and employment background. This is generally public information. However, you are under no obligation. So when you, writes Crispy, when you were talking to that woman, the blonde police officer, what amazed me is how much information she was giving you.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting thing that she was giving you.
I also want to clear something up about that video. When I said, "Are you open-minded?" and she looked at me funny, and I wrote in my chalk marks, "I hope she doesn't think I was talking about a threesome." I wasn't trying to be fresh.
Right. I got that.
It comes off that way. It comes off that. But when you say, "Are you open-minded?" it's usually followed up by that proposition.
She thought you wanted she thought you wanted a Mackenzie friends with benefits relationship.
Well, and not only that, but that really comes. I know you said that, and that really brings to mind how we interact with men and women. And obviously, being one of the only females that's out there recording the police, I mean, there's some more coming on board, but, you know, it's a different experience when we're mostly dealing with men. I do find the female officers often that I deal with, there have been a few exceptions, but sometimes they're worse than some of the men. They can be a little, excuse my French, bitchy. And so it was interesting to me that she was talking to you that way. And I could see how she might be able to play a card of being offended and everyone else jumping on that bandwagon.
And it happened again.
But I'm going to say this about people who are offended when you're working in your personal capacity and you're offended by anything, and whether it's sexual harassment or whatever it is, that power is yours. Yep. It's yours whether you're offended. And when I hear something, rather than get offended, I think, why are they saying that and what are they saying? And I literally have had trolls like you guys have all talked about. In the very beginning, I get all these emails about who's been to jail and who's a wife beater and who's this, and I shouldn't be talking to that person and this person. And when they keep up and then they start to be disrespectful, I just turn it around and I say, would you speak to your mother that way? And you know what? If they say, yes, I would, then I think that's not a person that I want to be dealing with. If we all interacted and respected our parents and interacted with people like we were interacting with our parents, it would be a better world.
Yeah. And you know what? When you said trolls and about feminism, I've had a troll contact my wife. I don't know. I think somebody on the police gave him her phone number. And he called her about 8 times and she was livid. And then he calls me and I let him know. I said, you know where I live. I'm going to have my wife kick your ass because she really wants to. And she can, you know, so it's not something, you know, that
well,
people...
and when I learned through public records requests that the Los Gatos police were taking my photograph and trolling me and doing different things, you know, and the 18-inch parking ticket that Officer Hoyt gave me out of pure retaliation, I'm going to call him out. They now are going to be buried. If I could teach you guys one thing, it's the Streisand effect. Do you know what that is?
No.
The Streisand effect is Barbara Streisand, you know, Barbara Streisand, the singer, very rich. Yeah. And she has a beautiful house on the coast in California. And she decided she didn't want the drones. There were a bunch of environmental projects that were going down the coast to surveil the coast. And they were doing lawsuits and different things about public access and environment. Well, she decided she didn't want her backyard and her beach area recorded. And so she sued them. And so you know what ended up happening? Everybody was recording her house. The lawsuits had her house. She had more invasion of her privacy.
Oh, the old Chick-fil-A technique.
Yeah. And so
you say you don't like a group.
Yeah. And so now when anybody says there's nothing to see here, they're going to get Streisand effect by me. So when a cop's retaliating against me, my public records are going to start nailing their department day in and day out, Friday at 5 o'clock. and I'm going to keep going until they understand what retaliation is about.
It drives my point. If they're naming you in that police bulletin, First Amendment orders, you're scaring them. You got their attention. All right. And some lawyer writes that for them. Their public relations lawyer writes that thing, and they come up with all those big $10 words. But Susan, you're driving home my point that I said when I first came on the podcast. It's about reaching across the aisle and getting a woman like you, an educated woman, to see past the language and see the substance. But not everybody's special like that. So my recommendation, what I learned from being a de-escalation expert and stuff, you give respect and you will get it. So if you're talking and addressing to the police and you're using respect and you're speaking to them, but still standing your ground constitutionally, intelligently, articulating, you're going to reach more people like Susan and more people that normally would watch police assassinate somebody in the middle of the street unarmed and say, no, the cops were right. There must have been a reason. You got to get that person.
That's right.
And when you get that person, the system will change.
You know why? Those are your jurors. Those are your jurors. And someday, if the juror is watching your video and it's full of bad language, you are going to incite people like me the way I was 10 years ago.
The number one thing I did before I started, before the day I went on my first Amendment audit, right before I did it, I called megajustice.com, Vince Pawlowski's law firm, right? The Mastrelli Pawlowski law firm. And I spoke to a guy named Steve there. I didn't speak to Vince the first time. And Steve just told me, well, what you're doing is controversial, and just realize that maybe someday a jury is going to be watching the video you're recording. So keep that in mind the whole time.
That's right.
I never forgot that. And that's the only advice I'll give to anybody. Everybody says, oh, give me some advice on how I should do this. I always say, number one, consult a lawyer. Number two, always remember that a jury may be watching you.
So can I tell you, back to Michael Smith, the private judge from hell in Santa Clara County, there's a hearing on Monday, and my name is all over the pleadings, and they're trying to blame the husband and the lawyer for being associated with me and everything else. And they've put in things that they claim I've written or that I've done and put in my YouTube videos and my emails. I sent an email specifically out to one of the attorneys, and that email is an exhibit. So every time I do a public records request, every time I do an email, I do it two different ways, either kind of sounding crazy and just ranting to get everything in there, or very professional because I know this one is going to be an exhibit. I sent that email on Thursday. I saw it attached to a court pleading 2 days later. So my YouTube channel, and you guys do this all the time, Sam Joaquin's always out there telling the name of his channel. I don't know, but he always is out there doing it. San Joaquin, and they all know his channel. And you guys are all doing this, and they're passing your channel around. And now they are passing my channel, my YouTube videos, and what I am doing all around the courthouse. And they are also blaming me for all these blogs that are being written by these other people.
Wow. I saw it said, and she has 70,000 views on that. You got 2.3 million views on that.
And you know what? That's the best revenge. And San Joaquin, you taught me that. You taught me that the best revenge is the long game that we're playing. And you know what? When people do go out and they use bad language with the police, it does serve a purpose, because you are trying to weigh the culture of that police department and the reaction of an individual officer. And so I'm not saying that those videos don't have value, because those videos are probably the videos that got a young girl recording the death of George Floyd. So whatever you guys are doing is right, but you do have to think about the long game, and that someday this is going to be in court. And that's a big deal, because that's how we're going to.
I want to say thank you. The analogy like this. Hey, I'm sorry, Susan, Rob. Go ahead, bro. Wake Up America, please email me, rightscrispy@gmail.com. I'll help you make it easier for you, just like it was for me the last time I quit, the very last time. So thank you for that donation. Thanks to everybody else who has been donating. You know, we're not monetized on this channel as far as, because we talk about controversial things that YouTube takes money away for. They can't put ads up on here, so that does help. We don't need it. I don't need it. I appreciate it. All your donations will go towards the cause. I don't use any of this money for my own personal stuff. I always invest back into the community. You guys know Janet's Kitchen. That's like my church. Hey, is that a San Pellegrino Aranciata Rosa?
Dos topas.
Oh, it's a beer.
Did you tune in to hear my Spanish accent?
I'm sorry, guys. I tuned in late. We've been dealing with a lot of stuff over here, especially what just happened recently. But
welcome
we are
aboard.
here.
Yeah, I want to talk about that also. And Mavericks, Vupurimayo Paruski.
There's the man right there.
San Joaquin. Wow, what a turn of events last night. You just met up with one of the people who goes by a YouTube channel named Press On. The guy's awesome. I've always watched that guy since I started, and he's an inspiration to me because he's BM double-footed, Chevrolet his way from Miami to California on foot, on the Lexus, and he got arrested 3 times in as many weeks, right? And last night was one of them, and you saw he walked all the way back. He says, "Do you really want to fight with the First Amendment?" And he pointed at all these. Look at all these cameras here, and they tackled him. They're like, "Yeah, we pretty much do want to fight."
Yeah, man.
Bakersfield PD.
Press On. The first cop watch that we did together, Press On and I, he got arrested, and we talked for about an hour. Man, look, when I seen Press On, he ran up to me and gave me a big old bear hug, bro, and wouldn't let me go. I was totally blown away. The dude really cares about us, and he cares about this community, and not just for the people that are involved in it, but he cares about the people that don't know about it yet. He wants to really educate folks.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and we care about him, and we care about those who care for him, like Liberty, Lady Justice, Liberty Press.
Liberty Press, that's right.
Right.
And the thing about Press On is, look, I'm learning still to this day. Like I don't know much, man. A lot of folks, especially Susan Bassi. Susan, how are you?
Hi.
Everybody tells me not to say that I'm not that smart, but I will never stop saying that because there's a lot of things that I'm learning to this very day. I'm learning from Susan Bassi. I'm learning from Rob Farlow. I'm learning from Rice Krispie, and I'm learning from Press On. And some of the things that I learned from him is just today. One of the things I learned from Press On yesterday is that the guy's not going to give in. He's not going to give his number, his name. He's not going to cave in. He's not going to give them what they want. He will protest the whole way through.
He went on a hunger strike for 5 days.
He's probably on a hunger strike right now, bro. We cannot find him in the as a John Doe or under his name, and as of yet, so we don't know if they've booked him or released him. We've looked for him downtown. We haven't found him. We've called the police station and the jail. They won't give us information because he won't give us his name. So this is kind of a tough situation, not only for law enforcement and all of them, but for everybody else, all of us who love him and want to find him and help him. It's hard for us to get a hold of him, but just imagine if everybody did that, if everybody understood their rights and everybody who felt like their rights were violated wouldn't just obey.
Bakersfield PD?
Yeah. And so right now, as of right now, Press On, we believe that
Can you guys hear me?
He'll be okay.
Yes, I can, Miss Bessie.
Sorry, I had a little technical problem.
Yeah, so I think Press On's gonna be okay. He's a strong man. If anybody hears from Press On and knows that he's out, let us know immediately because we need to go pick him up. It's hard to find out information about what's going on, but nevertheless, let me tell you guys something about Press On. He's not going to cave, and he's not going to give in. He's going to go all the way. How far willing is BPD willing to? How far are they willing to go? Is yet to be seen with Press On.
I can say the same about Miss Bassi also.
Right.
Susan Bassi cannot be stopped. Susan Bassi's idea cannot be stopped. Our idea cannot be stopped. You could try to stop us, but it's going to be super hard to stop each individual one of us.
Right.
And our idea, which is freedom and the love of it.
I told everybody from the beginning how
guys, I'm having some problems. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
She just paused it again. Man, look. What did I say? Well, I told you guys about Susan Bassi a long time ago. I told you guys how awesome she was. I learned a lot from Susan Bassi. We talked on the phone many hours. I was honest with Susan Bassi about, everything that I've been through in my life with charges and everything I've gone through. She's willing to help folks. And in a sense that she understands certain things, especially about like family law that we don't understand. But how important is she to this movement? I can explain that. A lot of us focus on the First Amendment. A lot of us focus on things that we don't understand with law enforcement. But there are other factors that come into this whole law enforcement thing. And a lot of that has to do with family law. And a lot of times law enforcement gets involved with family law, the court system. Susan Bassi will break things down and explain to us things that we don't know about family law. And that's important, man, because sometimes, let's say a father is actually a good father, or even a mother is a good mother, and they're painted out to be a bad person. If we don't understand how the system works, then we could ultimately lose our children, our families, and it's a sad deal.
Hey, nobody's gonna cope, bro. We love you, man. Just cool it.
And
be here and learn with us. I'm sorry to interrupt you, man, but go on.
I also believe that, let me ask you this: did any of you guys know anything about private judging and private courts? I had no fucking idea about none of this shit until Susan Bassi came in.
No, me neither.
So,
I didn't know a lot of stuff before Rogue Nation put me onto it, man. Thank you for being here, Rogue Nation. You didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I think Miss Bassi also took off. We're running overtime right now, and this is awesome. This is the after party with your.
I think Susan Bassi had some technical difficulties. I think she
might call back.
On.
Yeah, she might be one.
Man,
I learned private.
That's her name. That's her new name, Susan Bassi.
Susan Bassi. She's a boss, dude.
She is. She is. Private judges should never be in the same. Those two should never be in the same sentence. It's scary that they even call them private judge. In Florida, I knew about the divorce game. Trust me, I've been through it, and it's expensive. And these lawyers it's more. The longer it goes, and the more acrimonious it is, the better it benefits them. The more money they make. I got it. But private judges, that's crazy.
Right.
I'm looking forward to watching her videos, man.
You like my shot glass, Rob?
I love it. You like my pipe?
Thank you for being here, SJVT. I didn't get to welcome you aboard officially.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me, man. Sorry I'm late. I didn't really plan on coming on today. I didn't want to take away from Susan Bassi's conversation with you guys.
People in the chat have been asking, like, what happened with Press On? Didn't I see him sitting on the couch next to you in your live stream?
No, that was not Press On. That was Silence of the Law.
Oh, that was Silence. Oh, okay. They both support the same ZZ Top. They're like ZZ Top out there, huh?
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Hey, let me ask about him. Bro, obviously you know his real name. Have you tried the internet in their booking? Checking their booking?
Oh yeah, definitely. My wife is on top of all that. We're like my wife takes care of me on the internet. She's taking care of making sure, and also Liberty Justice is actually with my wife right now. They're going to go get milkshakes for everyone.
Gotcha.
Well,
you know how it's going to go in jail, bro. They're going to say, fine, you don't want to give us your name. We're going to make it as uncomfortable for you as possible.
Right. Absolutely, bro.
Yeah, they got blind justice and they stripped him naked.
Yeah.
That was messed up for a blind man to go through that shit. You know what I mean? These people, when I went to jail here in the Pinellas County Jail for a few hours, not a few hours, I was there from 2 p.m. to 1 a.m. because what they do is even though I bonded myself out with my own credit card, hold on, here we have, device is not connected, head to stream. I bonded myself out, so they didn't have a bondsman to answer to, and what they did was, there we go. What they did was they left me in there until after midnight so they could charge the taxpayers 2 nights stay for me, you know? And that's just one little crooked way they make another quick buck like that. While I was in there, they had 3 guys, or not three guys. They had 3 people in restraint chair, 2 guys, 1 girl. The girl had balled up a piece of paper, and through the piece of paper, they tackled her 4 deep, put a spit mask on her, and put her in the restraint chair. So later on at night, like when I knew I was about to, it's device not connected, it says, Miss Bassi. Later on at night, when I knew that I was, hopefully about to get out of there alive, when last 3 times last year when I was in the back of each police car, paddy wagon, whatever, I thought, is this the time that my kid is going to grow up saying my dad got killed in jail? I worry about him, not about me. I worry about what he would have to say for the rest of his life. But these people were thrown in these chairs that there's a limit of 2 hours that you can be put in these chairs. And it was about 5 hours, 6 hours later. No, even more. Yeah, it was like 8 hours later. No, because it wasn't right when I got there. So about 5 hours later, one of the guards comes up and is like, "Hey, is that guy still in that chair?" And I piped up. I said, "Hey, everybody in here is witness to that 8th Amendment violation, right? Remember this. We don't have anything to record it. Remember it. Talk about it. Tell your lawyers about it." And then instead of talking to each other from across the room like they were doing, they started picking up the phone and talking from desk to desk on the phone. So we wouldn't hear what they were saying. And they did finally get those people. Yeah, they are human rights violators.
And the regulation is on those where I were, every 2 hours, the lieutenant or supervisor is supposed to come in and check your hands, check your feet to make sure there's proper blood circulation and things like that. And obviously they're not doing that because it's terrible. But yes, I've seen it happen.
There we go. Miss Bassi, you there?
People are incompetent sometimes. They just don't care. And it's a shame.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of those videos where the person gets murdered. Like one guy just being held down like that, he got suffocated.
Oh,
when they were trying to put him in the chair. And then we saw that one video where the woman had her arms and legs strapped and she had the spit mask on her and they're torturing her. It's like these people have that mentality where they've conditioned to think that it's okay to treat another human being like that. You're supposed to punish them by taking their liberty, not their dignity, not their humanity. So all that other stuff is just extra stuff that you're doing, not something that the court sent you. If you work in a prison and you're doing that stuff, you're a sick fuck. And a lot of people, you saw it, Rob, and a lot of people in the police force, it attracts that personality. They want to have power over people.
Yeah, a lot of them have that. There's an issue that they dealt with. This is what I think it is. They get jobs like that because it's their way of going to therapy. Because the guy that picked on him or the person that they see that in another person, and now they have the power. So now, like, oh, this is the guy that beat me up and took my girlfriend in 8th grade. And they start just, they dish it out. I think they use it as therapy, a lot of them, because they got fucked with, they got picked on, they live in marriages where their wife don't even respect them. Trust me.
Hey guys, for some reason, man, when I came on, when I first came on, I couldn't hear Susan Bassi. She was sounding really crackly. And then for some reason, my sound came on and her sound came off. I don't want to take away from her interview. I'll log off if she wants to call back and see if you guys can hear her some more, because I feel like me logging on kind of made her
I
sound.
don't think it was you. I don't think it was you. I think we had some because we were fine actually. We were hearing everything all right. I don't know.
Is it does it still work with 4 or more people on here?
Here we go.
I don't.
I
Yeah, I
think
don't want
I'm
to take
in.
away
I
from
think
her,
I'm
man.
in.
So
there we go. We're
I'm
good.
sideways, but I'm in.
You're good.
she
Hey,
sounds
Matt.
crackly to me.
That's what my kids say too.
No,
I
I
can't hear
hear you
Susan.
fine. Stop being so racist, San Joaquin. She's such a cracker.
She's good.
I am a cracker. You got a problem with that? You want to go, San Joaquin?
You're too white for Coca-Cola, so we can't have you on Coca-Cola.
No, I hear you fine. You still hear her crackling?
Okay, her crackling just went away. I can hear you now, Susan.
You can hear me? Okay.
I can finally hear you.
I had to lock the dog out. She just wants dinner.
What kind of dog do you have?
A lab.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so
Beautiful dog.
you guys, as soon as I heard you talk about people getting stripped down naked, I couldn't get into the room. Sorry. I'm sorry I missed that. So David, the arrest was that last night?
Yeah, that was last night.
And so is he out or what's the deal?
Not yet. We don't know if he's out or not because he won't give up his name. He doesn't give up anything, and he won't tell them anything about himself. And
so they'll just keep him in there?
Yeah, but let me tell you something about this guy really quick. He won't not just give up his name or anything about himself to them, but not even to anyone. He doesn't want anybody to think of him as anybody other than just one of the people. Is it annoying? Yeah. Do I understand it and respect it? Yes. I mean, and he like I said, he's taking this all away.
It's only annoying when he's really a stickler about it. He's like, "No, stop calling me."
Shit. It's annoying to me because I want to be able to talk to him on the phone, but he doesn't talk on the phone. You know what I mean? I want to be able to call him by his Christian name, but he won't give it to me. He's just one of the people. I mean, look, I can disregard my own personal annoyances to understand the man and what he means and his fight. Obviously, his work speaks for itself. And he came down all the way to Bakersfield, California from my estate to record with me.
So in Idaho, in the last couple of weeks, he got arrested twice by the same cop, right? The same cop in the same county. And they knew his name. The first time he went on a hunger strike for like 5 days.
Right.
And then I guess they fingerprinted him, FBI identified him. And then when he got arrested again, he wouldn't give his name. So they started playing again. Sounds vicious AF.
Sorry, guys. They're all dogs.
The dogs are all going crazy right now.
The truth is, all they need is his fingerprint.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, you guys want to know a little secret about fingerprints?
Mm-hmm.
When I went to work at my kids' school, we had to get bonded and take fingerprints, and I don't have any. They couldn't get them
you're
off
one of those rare people. You're a rare person.
No. You want to know why I don't have them?
What?
Because in the early part of my career, I worked in surgery, and you had to scrub your hands all the time. And so nurses that work in ORs, doctors that work in ORs, and gardeners who wash their hands all the time, because I worked in farming too, they have a really hard time getting the fingerprints off you.
And cat burglars, they
cat burglars
in acid.
Yeah, that's not me. But
Dillinger used. Dillinger. Or your fingertips, whatever.
Now I know they can do it with a partial or whatever, but they do.
Yeah,
that does happen to groups of people that they don't have fingerprints for legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
He was an identical twin. One had prints, the other one didn't.
That's right. So
one can print.
We don't know. Did you see the records? Did you come into the room when we were talking about the Bakersfield records?
I didn't. I think I came in right
I'll
after.
pull them up again.
Rights Crispy put it up. I don't know if you'd seen this particular one. There were several records that I got from Bakersfield, and I put this one up because they actually had a training bulletin about First Amendment audits.
You sent me that. I read it.
And it just blew my mind. So, David, how many First and Fourth Amendment lawsuits you have going that they're saying that about you?
Right. Yeah. These guys are. You know what's crazy, Susan? I don't know if you've seen a couple of these videos, but these guys created cards to read to me when they see me. I'm honored. I'm honored, but I
You
laugh
should
at
be.
it. You know, look, did they really
What
have
do
to?
they say to you when they read the cards?
Oh, it's freaking hilarious! This whole timely place, time and manner, a nonsense, and they try to, they try to spew it to me, and
Sure. We
and
respect your right for a First Amendment audit, but you have a restriction of time, place, and manner. And they'll say some shit like that, right?
yeah,
So
but
Sam Joaquin, when you tell me things like that, guess what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to do a records request
on
for that
yeah.
damn card is what I'm going to do.
So
Yeah.
listen, in California, you were saying, Susan, mistakenly so in your email that Florida has the best records law. No. We might have them, but we have people who defy it more than any other state.
Well,
Probably.
I actually think Washington State has the best because in
Right,
Washington, if you don't give up the records, the Seattle Times made $500,000 off a small municipal agency that didn't give records but you need an attorney to be able to go and sue. But in Washington, they have what every state should have. And that is the agency that doesn't produce the records is financially responsible for a fine for every day that they don't produce them.
But not only that, in the wording, like I replied, I said, I believe it's actually Washington who has the best. And I've seen that in Cameras Everywhere's videos, in Record America's videos. And they'll put it up where it says they're basically in the wording, they're obligated to bend over backwards to assist you in getting your records, the records that you want. But here in Florida and anywhere where they deny you the records or they don't want to respect the law, what is your recourse? You can sue. And you can't sue for money here. Maybe over there you can, but over here you can go through all the process and pay all that money just to finally get the damn records that you want.
Okay, well, I now have a trick for you, and this is something that anybody who wants to watch these videos and learn about public records, there is in California. Yeah, write it down. So first of all, if you guys ever want to do any legal research, Google Scholar. You punch in things, and all the cases come up, and little information about the law that will not come up in regular Google. So it's called Google Scholar. And it's what we use when we're doing legal research. It gives us the cases. You can ask for articles, and you can ask for federal, state, or all kinds of things like that. And
just to let you know, Susan, I'm a licensed private investigator. So if you could teach me something better about how to get records,
I will. I will spend my life teaching people, because if I if I taught every First Amendment auditor how to get their records that could back up their work, the world would change within a week. And
that's a damn good plan.
And so my battery's running low, and I lost my
track. And it's time for us to wrap up too.
But let me just tell this one. I just want to give you guys this one little thing, Google Scholar, and this one case, because what amazed me is why we're not more reporters and publishers using this case. It's called the Naymark case, Naymark. And it was an attorney, James McManus, who is really known as a First Amendment attorney, but he's also a dirty divorce attorney. So I have mixed feelings about James McManus. But he sued on behalf of two plaintiffs, the town of Los Gatos, the city of San Jose, and the sheriff's department, because what they were doing is very much what you guys are finding. They were asking for ID for people asking for public records. And so what they said is this is a policy and procedure that violates the law, and they sued under a taxpayer waste lawsuit. And it's in the Civil Code of Procedure 526A, I think it is. And what that means is if you're a taxpayer in a county and you have agencies that are coming up with informal policies and procedures that divert the purpose and the spirit of the law to block public records that are costing taxpayers more money because they're doing these procedures and exposing them to lawsuits, you can file as a taxpayer and address and make the counties be responsible for producing the records the way they're supposed to.
Basically, if they're mismanaging your money as a taxpayer, you got a claim.
Yeah. And so, and anybody can do it. Anybody can watch your channels and say, hey, they are wasting taxpayer dollars. And if they were actually able to do that, there could be anybody who owns a home or is a taxpayer in a community is eligible to sue under this law. And so if more people would start if we have more civil rights attorneys that can get fee awards because the lawsuits are slam dunk, and we have more attorneys that are representing you guys when you go out and get arrested, if it's a true First Amendment violation, that will change. We need to change the legal resources from divorce attorneys and private judging to these civil rights attorneys that are protecting more rights for everybody. And
Yeah, I
when
know your battery is low, and I was just about to wrap it up, but there's
Okay.
200 and something people still watching, so let's just keep it going.
Okay, well, we'll go till my battery dies. But
Yeah.
but I do really, if I can ever teach you guys anything about public records, the way I learned was a reporter who had done it for a long time. He didn't do it for me. He just gave it to me and said, "This is how you do it." And San Joaquin, you know that I just did it in Bakersfield and got a bunch of records the other day. Every time I see records, when you guys see buildings that are public and public access and
We have the same first records that we always ask for at a PD. Go ahead.
I told you guys Susan was badass.
Yeah. And we agreed. This is your first thing that we want everybody to do. Go ahead. What's the list, Susan?
So the first thing that you do if you're auditing the police is you ask for the roster, and you ask for their roster with their names, their badge numbers, and their assignment. You want to know what they are. You want to know, are they a captain or are they a sergeant? What are they? And where they have been.
Numbers too.
And vehicle, I never really do that because I'm not, but that is a good one. I would ask for vehicle numbers. So that's
you want the sworn roster, employee roster, because you have sworn employees and non-sworn.
That's right. And they try to not give you the civilian. So you do want to expand it to the civilian. And then the very next thing you want to ask for are the policies and procedures of the department. That is really, really important. But then when you want to start
also known as the general orders, they call them sometimes. In sheriff's departments. Sheriff's offices call them general orders. Police departments call them policies and procedures.
And the other thing that I'm kind of checking is which cities and police departments are responding really well. And when I did these requests, I did it for Bakersfield, but I did it for Davis. I did it for a number of ones. I have to say, Davis was, and I was really proud of that. That's why I'm wearing my Davis sweatshirt tonight. Not Davis campus, the UC Davis police that maced those kids that pissed me off back in 2011. They were terrible on their public records, but the city of Davis gave me tremendous records. So when I do a police department request, I request my regular roster and the general policies and procedures, but then I request something related to what I'm looking at. And in that police macing of the students, they went and they maced the students who were protesting. Once all the lawsuits are filed, you can't get court records as public records, but as soon as a lawsuit is over, you can get the lawsuits. So every First Amendment auditor should be doing the roster, the policies and procedures, and then the other thing I do is I do a request for all public records requests to a department. I want to know what other people were asking and what they were getting, because first I ask for the requests, and if somebody got something I want to see, then I asked for a follow-up on the production. And a reporter for the Mercury taught me that once. They said, hey.
Two reasons why that's important. One, the reporters go and they get the scoop. So you want to know what they're getting.
That's right.
And also, they've gotten it and they've paid for that record to be made, so it should be free to you.
Right, because when the Mercury pays $5,000 for the research for the records, the research is done, so all they have to do is produce the records, and that's how I get records for free that the Mercury paid for. So that's the other thing I do. But what's really, really, really important, and it's what I did in the Nymark case, and if any of you want it and any of you want lawyers to have it, I literally got the public records from the city of San Jose that showed everything related to the lawsuit. Because once a lawsuit is over, up to the settlement and all the documents, you get it in a public records request. But you cannot get it while that lawsuit is pending. It's considered a court record and they don't have to produce that. So that's a little trick. And if all of you would be getting the lawsuits in your departments of the federal lawsuits, that doesn't look like one of your kids.
No, that's silence of the law. press-on folks that they
Yeah,
came with.
he was on the
Hey,
ground. No,
Well,
hey,
you
Susan,
tell
you
him I
already know.
want.
I try to be a good host, Susan. You
You
know.
are a good
the
host.
kid
And
was recording right away when he saw
Yeah.
press on.
I want you to have him help me do public records requests. Public
Right?
records requests can be done by kids, students,
Really?
journalism teachers.
Underage?
Yes, they just write it out and
Wow,
send
look
it.
how
Are
much
they
we're
going to
learning.
check the age
Look how
of the
much
person?
we're learning from Susan today.
I didn't know that.
And all
Fuck
these
me
people,
neither.
all these people that are home, all these seniors that don't have anything to do because they can't see their family and everything else, and
Yeah.
until they get the shot and until they can go somewhere, they should be doing 5 public records requests a
Should
day.
it be in some kind of school curriculum that kids should be learning how to do? Right?
Should be in a basic
That
writing
should be
class.
You figure like a teacher.
You guys heard that? You guys heard that here
I
first.
say, if I say to an officer, is your camera running, and you want to donate to my channel, you don't need to donate to me. Go get that record.
That's right.
That record.
I do that
Pay for
every
that.
time I leave a police department. I ask for all the body cams where I'm in it. The
Yeah.
Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department, since they broke my hand, has had a policy where they record me with every interaction. So do you know how many police officers for the last 4 years have been recording their interactions with me? And do you know that in my criminal case, even though they are obligated to produce that information to my attorney, they haven't done it? And what they will probably do is what they call a document dump on the eve of trial, because we're going to trial for 2 months for me recording the police in the courthouse. And when we go to trial, they are going to pull a truck up to the back of my my public defender's office, and they're going to dump body cams. And the reason they don't want me to have them is because they know I'm posting them on my YouTube channel and I'm going to show them what they're all doing.
Before your battery dies, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, how is your hand?
My hand's crooked and it hurts when I type, but guess what? When you're
You have a good
recording
occupational therapist?
when you're recording the police, you don't need to type anything. So I can do that.
Good.
That's my ADA accommodation that the Sheriff's Department gave me. So you guys.
If I had a Purple Heart Award, I'd give it to you.
I appreciate
Wow,
that. All I want you to give me instead is a
lot.
public records request, because I'm going to tell you what, you guys. This is what happens. You send it out, and sometimes you forget about it. And sometimes you get that agency that in 10 days, they, say, oh, we need more time. And they don't really need more time, but they're really wondering, what does she want? What is she asking? How do we retaliate against her for this? And you know what? When you get those records requests, it's better than Christmas morning, because you find things in those records, and those are public records, and they were right there all along. And all we needed to do was ask, and we could get them. We could get them for free, and we could get them. We've already paid to produce them. And when you see what's in those records, treasure after treasure after treasure, you will know more about your local government. And I don't care what's going on in Washington, D.C., because that doesn't affect me every day. I care about the police officers in my community. I care about the public records in my community. And I will fight every day until we have local news back in the community that's real local news and not bought off and not being diluted to national issues. We need to focus on local.
Fact, because they've got the PIO of many police departments is a former news anchor, and they get that job at the police department, and they just work together like the show Cops did.
They know how to spew it.
Hey, San Joaquin, when you came.
And the PIO is preliminary inquiry officer.
Or public information officer.
I want to say this because you guys you guys, I got to tell you, San Joaquin one time came up, had my back, and was doing some recording while I was restrained from going to the county office. So because the DA thinks I'm such a terrible threat, I now can't go to the county office. And San Joaquin came up with a couple of folks, and they videotaped the public defender's office and the DA's office. And David was at the elevator. And do you know who that man was that you met, David?
Yeah.
That was Sean Webby. He's the public information officer for the district attorney, and he's a former reporter for the San Jose Mercury. He's the one that stole the sign from a protester. He pointed out this protester at a anti-Persky rally, and this Stanford law professor ran up and stole his sign. And I got the video, and I thought, are you kidding me? These are grown adults, PIOs, and Stanford law professors stealing a sign at a public rally. That's our public information
the most
officer for the DA's office.
un-American thing that I've heard.
You gotta remember this invention of the camera and the internet. They never could have foreseen this. They are so scared. They're clinging on to power to the point where they're exposing their criminal deeds in public.
You don't like it. If you're watching, we know you don't like it.
We've got a camera, and we're not afraid.
We don't like it. We don't like what you're doing with our buck.
So
yeah, that guy was passive aggressive. He was weird, but I put him in check.
Yes, you did. And I was really happy to see that video because that PIO has been a problem in my life forever, but there was also a court PIO. So you want to know about the court PIO? He's dirtier than the DA's PIO. His name is Joe Macaluso. And you know what Joe Macaluso did? He buried my public records requests on private judging. And then when someone made a media request in one of my cases, he called me a sovereign citizen. That's his information disseminated to the public. He told a fellow reporter that I was a sovereign citizen. And he's
Shout out to all the sovereign citizens watching. I'm talking to you,
Italian.
Judges and
yeah. I'm half Italian, and that's what I would call a real made man right there. That guy is the guy that could squat. That guy is the dirtiest player in the game right there. He knows how to bury those. He knows how to bury those bodies and cover his tracks. And
I didn't leave it at that, and I probably could have sued him, but I did report him, and he did get terminated from the courts shortly thereafter. But
I wonder what he's doing now.
And his replacement is Ben Rada, and Ben Rada is very professional. And you guys want to know something about Ben Rada? Ben Rada is the court PIO in Santa Clara County. And last week on Monday, Ben Rada told me that because of all my persistence, they will be posting the private judge list on the court website for the first time in 21 years.
Brava, bravissima.
But that has a loophole. That has a loophole. Their list is highly defective, and it still doesn't have all the cases on it, but it's a start.
You know what? And that's the thing when we're talking about public records. This is like, fine, give them whatever looks good. That's what we get. We get.
That's right.
Fine, give them whatever looks good.
Right.
We don't ever get the real thing. Like I've asked for that basic roster, and you know what? They give me a roster from a year ago. You know, with the vehicle assignments that haven't been assigned already, you know.
So let me help you with that. Let me help you with that. When you're making a request for a roster, make it very specific. Yes. I want a roster for this time period, any person or roster that existed from this period to this period. And 3 years is safe. You can even go back 5 years because otherwise they will drop names off and you won't get a complete list. And so you can say, I want a copy. Remember, when you're making a records request, it's like playing Mother May I. It's like asking for just the certain thing. May I have this record for this year? They can't make up new records, which they do all the time. They can't say it doesn't exist. They have to look for exactly the record, and they're burying it in all these databases, so they don't know how to look. But the reality is, if you ask for this period of time and for these records, they should give them to you. And they are so bad about it. I have had records requests to the DA's office that I've had to do. Once you do the records request, you can see there are other records that may exist. You do what they call a further production. You say, great, that's fine. But it appears from what you gave me that there are other records that exist responsive to my request that you did not give me. And then they have to produce the additional records. But you have to be on it. You have to be trained. You have to be vigilant. And you have to persist, because otherwise they will be lazy and you will not get your records.
I have a question for you, Susan. If I can ask, SB 1421. Have you been following up with those? Are those part of the records requests that you? Are those part of the records that you request? Should we be focused on that as well regarding every officer we encounter?
So I think that's really important, and the reason it's important is twofold. For anyone who's been through a criminal process and dealt with police officers, and I'm one of them, there used to be what we call in California a pitches motion, where you would get the records of the police officer based on a pitches motion, but that required a judge deciding if you should get it. Now these records are available more in the SB 1421, and you can request them. You can request them of each department, and you've got to remember that public records take a lot of curating and storing and sorting through. It's not a really easy thing if you're ramping up to SB 1421 records. So there are a lot of mainstream media journalists that are working on that, and they'll pull things out and then write a story on it. That's helpful. But if you're going to really focus in your local community, California we have this gift in this SB 1421, and we need to be using it. For the rest of the country, there was some documents, and I'm not sure exactly what it was called, but it was called the Blue Lives documents or something, the Blue documents, and they were all the police records from across the country, and they got uploaded to a database, and all the social media accounts started blocking anybody who talked about it. It was a full court press to silence what was in those records. So I'll do some postings, and then I can talk about that and put links to it too. We try to get things on Document Cloud. And the reason we do that, we call it open sourcing. And that means that any reporter, any citizen, any criminal, and I have a lot of criminal defense attorneys that are using my public records. And I want to give a really big shout out to a guy in Iowa who is the baddest ass public records guy. He can tell you how to request records down to the keystroke of a police officer changing an edit on a video. He knows how to request the records with IP information and keystrokes. And he actually,
you got to think past the human in this day and age.
Can we get him to start a channel right away?
We should get him to start a channel. He used to work.
You already know me, Susan.
I
want everybody to start a channel.
This guy would be I met him at Investigative Reporters and Editors in 2017. He used to be a contractor for the military. He is the baddest ass guy in records requests, and he works for a criminal defense attorney.
On that note, what we were talking about is how things get, brushed under the rug. Look at the Paradise and Panama Papers. How do we pull those out from under the rug again?
I'm going to tell you my personal feeling about that. And that is that we've been so complicit as a society that we have Panama Papers. And what do we do with that? There's computer tech people that could do a million things with artificial intelligence with that. And could an individual person do something? Maybe somebody, if they were really focused and all their life on it.
I could have just marked us all on a list for having said that right now. Sorry. And thank you for your bravery.
Well,
I don't know what that shit is, so take me off the list.
Well,
yeah, I'm not good.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that I don't deal with things like Panama Papers because I think there are enough public records and things to investigate in a community where it's still small enough to deal with it.
Tell people when I hear them arguing about politics, that person, he or she is going to fly off in their private jet and leave us to deal with the stuff that we have to deal with here,
right,
in our own town, in our own community, and that's where our power in the unity. We have to take this information age and use it to our advantage. It's yes, we are doing our own things in our community, but let's motivate others and show others how to do it.
Absolutely. And that's happening, bro.
It is.
It's happening.
Right
look at
right now, right here.
I'm in California. Me and Susan Bassi are in California, and you and Stone Sailor are in Florida. We are
coast to
pretty
coast, from sea to shining sea.
Really doing the sea to shining sea thing. And we're talking, putting our heads together, trying to figure this out. And I gotta be honest. I'm honored to be on here with you guys because a lot of you guys have experience in life. Rob Farlow in his life, Susan Bassi in her life and everything she's experienced, Rice Krispie in your life and everything you've been through and have experienced. Look at me, man. I'm honored to be on this panel with you guys. We're putting our heads together. We're trying to figure out this whole thing, man. Look, we are still in its infancy. Everybody should be on the page with what Susan's talking about with records requests. First Amendment auditors, not just First Amendment auditors or cop watchers. And Susan Bassi said something to me a long time ago. It's like, stop labeling yourself as anything. Really, you're just a journalist, and in reality, there's laws that protect journalists and not auditors and cop watchers. So there's a lot of, I've learned a lot from Susan, and that's why I believe that everybody listening here today will learn a lot from Susan, and we will all continue to learn a lot from each other.
We learn from all of us every day.
I feel like they should give me college credit after listening.
Absolutely. I'll give you college credit.
Sure.
How's that? Here,
really
Yellow
do.
Davis college credit.
I want a law school
don't think to be a journalist. I'm trying to be impartial. I'm a gonzo journalist. I'm doing this because I feel compelled to tell the story of what's going on in my community. I am in the number 3 county in the United States for sex trafficking. Why is that? Because it's ratchet as fuck out here. Nobody cares about another human being. Education is low. Housing is cramped up together. There's an entire city that has no playgrounds for kids except for this one place run by the Police Athletic League. And I don't know how to feel about that because I've talked to Neil. Neil, if you're watching, and I went to that breakfast with Pal, and I've tried in my local community. I've tried, but this is the most effective thing that I've been able to do.
Yeah. I agree, bro.
I've helped out in food banks and stuff, and that still helps out. Like you're saying, it works. But we need to awaken the masses. We need to really educate people with real media, not the fake, like what you were saying. They're there to promote the cop is the moral, virtuous leader who is up against a horrible, violent society. And that's not the truth. These guys are 40% versus 10% domestic violence in their families versus the general populace. These people have attracted, and it's gotten out of control, especially since after 9/11, they've all been put on this beyond reproach pedestal that they're storming up the stairs and building.
You're right.
We got to stop looking at that. You can't keep milking that one.
Yeah,
are supposed to be the best of us.
What you guys can do in Florida,
that they're the worst of us sometimes.
Well, the war on drugs and the war on terrorism militarized the police department. So what you're seeing is these guys, these cops are suffering PTSD, and they're just hitting triggers. And people are hitting triggers, by just asking them asserting their rights, going, hold on, wait a second. And they don't know what to do with it because they're seeing themselves as an occupier. Like when I was in Iraq, shut up because I told you so. You understand? This is a war. This isn't a war. You're a police officer. It's not a war.
There was a
instead of thinking of kicking down the door, think of Sean Connery in The Untouchables, the old Irish beat cop. You know what I mean? That's still like a tyrannical, ball busting guy, but at least he's not going to kick down the door unless he knows that you're, running something. You know what I mean?
I want to tell you guys a story that I think you will benefit from. And that's the story about how I just kind of blended local news and EFF. Do you guys know what EFF is? Somebody just asked a few minutes ago for help on those public records. EFF is the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and they worry a lot about our privacy, and they think of things probably 10 years before we think of it. Yeah. So I pay attention to their sites, and if ever I have any money, I always donate to them. They're a nonprofit. It's EFF.org. And I was on their site one time, and I was noticing that they had this predictive policing software. And I thought, what the hell is predictive policing software? These guys don't get it right in real life. Now we're going to have software where they're going to predict crime. And so I happened to notice that Los Gatos, California, this small town of 30,000 people, had this software on the EFF map for the entire country. So I did a records request for it. I got involved with EFF. We did it together. We got the production back of what they had paid for, how much they paid for this software, what it was supposed to do, how they convinced taxpayers to pay for it. And they put a little line in there that they did it in collaboration with Campbell, which is a nearby city. And I assumed that meant they were paying for it. And so then I went and I did a live stream because I was a little worried. I was in my backyard and it was a Friday and I thought, I'm going to live stream. You guys are always telling me to live stream. And I do think that it helps if you're going to get in trouble. And I pushed the button and I've been asking for records under the government code 6253A, which means you got to show me the records right then. I'm not waiting 10 days. It means I got to see them right now. I don't know if Florida has that, but that is what I do every time I go to an agency. I want to see your records. I don't want to wait 10 days.
That. We have it.
You need to demand that.
You were asking for. It's the same here.
Then you need to ask for that.
It's like, no, I don't want you to give me a copy, produce it, waste paper, or anything like that. I want you to present it to me so I can use my own recording device and make a copy of my own.
That's right. So you will hear me say that all the time. That's about access. What you guys are about is about filming, transparency, and access. This is about access to public records. And if any of you ever saw that Erin Brockovich movie, she's literally in that file room copying those records from the PG&E, and they're trying to stop her. They're like, "Oh my God!"
My cousin was in that movie. My cousin is actually a mainstream reporter.
So
I a mainstream reporter.
I like how she used her beauty to distract them, and she you know what I'm saying? She was real smart.
But she had a baby on her hip while she was doing it, and she went in and she got her records, and they knew they couldn't stop her. She went to this little PG&E place and she got the records, and that's what a records room should look like, as far as I'm concerned. But the internet has made all these people take our public records and put them into computer databases, and we have no idea what those records rooms look like anymore. So that's why we need to be demanding, because I think this is the next most important thing. Where are our records and what are you doing with them? Because this is why access to public records are important. We don't know what we're looking for. We don't know what we want to see. And so the records laws say you get access to it, to inspect it, and decide what you want to copy. And how can you make a request if you don't know what you're asking for? And that's why access to records are so important.
And speaking of records, for the record, my cousin was in the movie after Erin Brockovich called American Sweethearts, and she plays a mainstream reporter there. My cousin was the NBC anchor for New York, for NBC4, I think, up there. Like 8 million people watched her every morning, and she's now in South Carolina with her family and stuff. She was in that, remember Real TV when it first came out?
Yeah.
He was one of the first anchors there. That was like the first real TV that you see today. Then it got perverted, and then we took over. This is real TV.
It is. And you know what I heard the other night, and you guys should be really proud of this. I literally heard the other night a news anchor on NBC or MSNBC say, more people are now getting their news from social media than from mainstream media. That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
And the reason is because we're showing what's really going on in their communities. These are the police officers who are somebody's husband, somebody's father, somebody's son, somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, and people want to see. And you know what? If those police officers start realizing, just do your job and you won't worry that anybody's recording you.
And speaking of doing our job, I feel that with this First Amendment right, and just like every one of our other rights, like if my Second Amendment right, I'm not going to step on somebody's toes and then stand my ground. With my First Amendment right and with all other rights come responsibilities. And my responsibility is not to stand here and pontificate on something on which I had no idea, like a pandemic. I don't know anything about that, but especially when the people in charge don't even know. You know, I know that the whole world isn't in on something just for our country.
Right.
I know that, you know, there's a lot of people who are scared and they're showing their fear with anger about, you know, rights and stuff. Our rights have responsibilities. I peel the layers of a story until I get to the truth, and then I'll talk about it. I say that I'm not a journalist. I'm a gonzo journalist because I don't think any of us can claim to be subjective or objective. This is subjective when they drag us in and demand our ID. You know, they don't do that to NBC4 or Trisha Takamata and her pantsuit. You know what I mean?
Hey, Nate.
Hey,
We're going to teach Nate to start doing
we have a
records requests.
responsibility,
Hey,
and
David,
that's what attracts people is they know they're not being bullshitted most of the time. Sometimes people are sensationalists, just like you get on your local news.
I know. But you got to
Yeah.
remember, hey, no journalist is completely objective. We're all in this together. And I've been watching journalists talk about what the pandemic has done to their lives, how they're getting through it, and they're not objective when they're doing it. It's their personal experience. So even though you have a personal experience behind the camera, it doesn't mean what you're doing in front of the camera isn't objective.
Right.
So the last thing that I wanted to tie together was I went over to the Campbell Police Department, and you guys have kind of gotten me in fighting mode. So I had my live stream going. It was Friday afternoon. I literally plan on, if I'm probably going to get arrested, I try not to go near the police on a Friday because I know I'm going to be sitting in jail all weekend until Monday morning.
There you go.
And so
we have that conversation all the time.
I'm telling you, when you get an education in prison. Trust me.
That's right. But I don't want it right now. So if I've got plans for the weekend or work, I'm not going to go filming cops on Friday. So I broke my rule and I went to the Campbell Police Department on Friday because I was looking for these predictive policing records, and I was ready to do battle. My adrenaline was going, and everybody that starts doing First Amendment auditing, you know what this feels like. Your adrenaline's going. What are you guys doing? You having a party for me? So
that is a device with which they smoke marijuana.
Oh, okay. Miss Bassi doesn't smoke marijuana.
CBD.
It's bad for your lungs, and I really wish you guys would eat edibles instead of
CBD.
No, they actually just found that
I do it all, Susan.
Okay, well,
I do it all, Susan.
I'm not a fan of smoking, so that's where you don't get me. So, okay, here's the other thing that I want to tell you. So I went in and I was expecting that they were going to give me trouble about my records. And the lady was the nicest lady that has ever answered my public records request. She looked for some records. She told me she thought I had asked for the wrong time period. And the police chief called me back the next day. I asked him to call me, and he actually called me back. And he had actually been a sergeant when I was working on my little publication. He was the sergeant there. And so he literally walked me through the records, what he thought there was available, and he gave them to me, and I forwarded them on to EFF. And so we can literally do that kind of thing, and not every police officer is bad. And the Campbell Police Department, they did a great job. They did it exactly like they should. I want to give them all the praise in the world. Sadly, that doesn't get as much attention as it does when they mess up. But Los Gatos was doing some shady stuff with those records, and I am forever grateful that the Campbell Police, and they knew me. They knew that I had worked as a publisher in their downtown area, and they were respectful. I was respectful to them, and I got my records. So I do think that, you do need to think about the risk in everything you do with the First Amendment. You have the right to use foul language. You have the right to do whatever you want, but you do have to remember someday that may be shown to a jury. And
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I care about more than a jury is someday it's going to be shown to your family, and you just need to be proud of the work that you do.
You know what, though, Susan?
I agree with that.
When you don't use foul language, even when you are just being assertive, I guess some people would call it being a jerk, but just being assertive.
She on?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, they still look at you as, he should have just kowtowed and begged for forgiveness from.
Yeah, you're a troublemaker.
Right. And that's not the way it should be in America. We should be a beacon of freedom. Where no, sir, I have not committed a crime, and you have no authority over me, an American in this country. So
I think
fuck
I'm gonna
off.
change. I think I'm gonna change that up and say, "Hey, cop, I've committed many crimes, but you ain't never saw me, motherfucker." How about that one?
Like
How about
Chuco just there.
No, listen. Tell him, listen. Hey, tell him, say, listen.
a little
A little bit, Tutu. I just finished my second scotch, but he just sounded like Tuco in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when he.
Whoa, get that thing out of there.
If I get you down, you're gonna need a lot of help to get back up.
I committed a lot of crimes, officer, but you never seen me commit one, have you?
Tell him, look, I only lie under oath. I don't lie other than that.
Hey, we're both liars. Yeah, we're both liars.
Miss Bassi took off. I think her battery died. I was about to shout out Samsung or iPhone for the battery life of the thing.
Okay, right.
But do you guys want to say take on questions from the chat, or do you want to?
I'm not reading the chat, but read them to me. Let's answer questions, man. Shit, fuck it.
No, I'm not reading them either. Thank you, Joe Sosnowski. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. He says the new opera outro is fire. That opera is from an old Rice Krispies commercial where they ran out of it, and the mother-in-law brings the new pack of Rice Krispies, and it just sounded like it. So I put that in there with my friends.
I like it.
Collaborated with Tiago, this guy named Charlie Santiago, to put together. Who worked in he's going to be in the new Jordan Peele movie, and he put together that outro with my friend Alexander Noir, who you saw in my community post a couple weeks ago with his new joint. Go check that out. Sub him. You know, some people don't like R&B. That's all right, but just go show your support for my friend of all the people that I've been friends with, that guy I've never argued with that dude. We've never debated about anything like wrong. And I debate and argue with everybody. So that just shows you that dude is an easygoing dude.
You know what? To me, it sounds like when you talk to people, it sounds like a debate and argument. But I think you're a pretty smart dude, so you're always willing to question, challenge things that you don't maybe understand or agree with. And I think that's not much of a
growth and learning is part of friendship.
Yeah, bro, exactly. Like, man, how many times have you and I talked, Finn, and we've disagreed on stuff like that? And different
What'd you call me?
Right.
Exactly.
No, but how many times have we disagreed on things and stuff? And
no,
you and I have just like it is what it is, bro.
What'd you call me?
Yeah. But I don't know, man. Yeah, you got to have some kind of open mind about the other side of the argument as well, right?
For sure.
Along the way.
We all just scooted in a little bit.
Yeah, right.
What's up, Rob?
Much love, Rob. Man, Rob.
Just listen. I feel like I gave birth to Johnny Cochran after Susan came on. I'm just my brain. I'm stone. I got a lot of law, man. I want credit.
Joe Pereira.
Hey, Rob.
Pereira.
Hey, Rob. What's up?
Didn't you do an audit with Joe Pereira?
Yeah, Joe Pereira is legit. Joe Pereira is out there with Susan Bassi as well, bro. Joe Pereira is a good.
Joe Pereira is Portuguese.
He's a good. Joe Pereira is a good, solid man. And one day, Bay Area Transparency called me. He's like, "Hey, man, can I trust Joe Pereira?" And I said, "Yep, you can trust Joe Pereira." That's what I gotta say. That's all I gotta say about Joe Pereira. How about
I remember you went out with him, and it was like a mass audit. It was you, Tulare, I think, News Not.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Joe Pereira was there. That's right. Yeah, Joe Pereira, man. Oh yeah. Thank you, brother, for donating.
Yeah, thank you.
Fuck yeah. That's awesome. And Joe Pereira's always donated to people, man. He's always helped out.
And
He's always
Joe-
looked out, and he was
Joe
gone out there, and he records himself. He records police himself as well. So much love, man. I mean, what kind of? How often do you get that kind of supporter, bro? Right? Like this guy's willing to go the whole 9 yards and shit with us. Yeah, man. Fuck yeah, Joe Pereira's legit. Rob Farlow. Rob
What's
Farlow,
going
man. Rob Farlow is probably I gotta say, guys, Rob Farlow is one of my new friends. But if you guys don't understand that Rob Farlow is your friend as well, you're on the late train, homies. Straight up. Rob Farlow is all of our friend. He's a good dude.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. That means
Thank you,
a lot.
bro.
Because you guys, like I
Federal
said,
law enforcement officer, friend of the community.
Am I right or wrong though, Rob? Aren't you
I-
you are my friend, but aren't you all of our friends? You're just a good
Absolutely.
dude, right?
Sure,
That
absolutely.
guy's an American.
You know, I just always tried to leave people better than I found them. That's just what whatever it was, military, police, private security, the prison, whatever it was I was doing. Even when I was a terrible mechanic, remember that when they
Yeah, that was your first MOS, right?
Yeah, I always tried my best. I just couldn't leave the planes better than I found them.
Yeah.
I could leave people better than I found them, but not planes. Okay.
I kind of look at sometimes like I'm like I have that same motto, but I'm like I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
but I definitely
Congratulations.
understand
Today
what you're saying.
we just took $2 trillion out of our kids' pockets today.
Yeah.
Well-
That just happened. People think I'm a liberal, but I'm a fiscal conservative, and that was some bullshit. Just so people could have a petty $1,400 extra dollars. You know what? That's $2 trillion. That didn't all go to us, man.
I'll be honest with you. I think
Pragmatically,
at this point in time, I think it's too far gone. I think we're in a failed system. We're in a failed state, unfortunately.
There's no way out.
No,
I mean,
I think
we need the great reset.
Gladiator combat in Rome before it collapses. This is the end.
Do we need the great reset?
I think the reset is going to be where you're going to see states, I think, join, like 2 or 3 states are going to have like a compact, and they're going to be responsible for their own, because a lot of these states are like, I'm not sending my money to California. I'm not sending my money to New York. I'm not sending my money here. And
They don't need to. They'll take 40% of mine.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bloodless civil type where you're gonna see states join together and file for divorce against the federal government is what you're gonna see, and hopefully it'll be peaceful. And and then you as a citizen of these couple states, if you want to move to another state, you would have to go through their process. I think. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I just don't want to see blood in the streets, for God's sakes. I don't want to see that. I don't want to live to see that.
James Freeman said we're merely documenting. What was it? Documenting the fall of an empire. Exactly.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, we're going to reemerge as a different type of, I think.
Wait a
of
minute.
an
Which empire is that? Is that the empire?
Every
of the people?
empire. We're
or
overdue.
the empire that the government created. That empire is the
whole. And the government will create another one. They'll recreate another one. There'll be another world power. China's, Russia. I think it's just a matter of time. It just, you can't sustain this.
James Freeman's a smart motherfucker, dude. He knows exactly what the hell he's talking about. There's a lot of people out here that know what they're talking about. Jason Bassler. Not me. I only have questions. I don't have answers. James Freeman's a smart motherfucker, though.
Thank you, Joseph Snosky.
Texas secedes, then what? The U.S. invade? Nah, the U.S. ain't gonna invade Texas.
No.
They're gonna have to decentralize.
The people invaded.
We would be like
we implode. We
All
implode
right.
when we attack each other at the grocery stores and shit, right? When we label each other and we're like, man, fuck you, Democrat, man, fuck you, Republican, you fucking conservative, you fucking liberal bastard. Like when we label ourselves, we lose either way, right?
Yeah, we do when you label yourself, because no, they make it impossible really for anybody to fit into either party.
Again, what's going on?
Right, no shit.
Yeah, no one fits in. So
and as soon as you join one party, you're a 50% asshole on any platform.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, pretty much. And then you have to worry. The only one thing the two parties agree is they don't want another party competing.
Have you heard anything from the other room? Have you heard anything about Press On?
No, we are still waiting. My wife is actually on it as well, dude. Checking, making sure if we got another John Doe in the system.
So your wife's on it, and just so everybody who's watching, like, she'll come running in and be like, "Hey, look, we found him." Right now, we don't know where he is because he's not.
My wife's usually patient, and she'll wait for me to shut the fuck up, and then she'll look at me and she'll say, and I'll be like, "Yes," and then she'll tell me what's going on. I'll be like, "Fuck," and then I'll get the whole story. So she's not rude either.
That's how Lucy is.
It's an amazing way of life over here, man. I get so much help, man. You guys think I was gonna make a video, man, of the green screen, and I was gonna stand in that shit, and I was gonna say, "Hey guys, I know you guys wonder how I fucking." You hear my wife laughing on the side, but I was gonna stand in there and say, "I know you guys wonder how I get so much work done," and then I was gonna film myself walking in. I was gonna say, "I got a twin brother," you know what I mean? And I was gonna mess around just for the hell of it, be a dumbass, but I don't know. I might not be able to pull it off. Maybe I'll pull it off one day.
Oh man, I'm gonna try that.
It won't happen now.
I'm gonna bite your right.
But no, my wife helps out a lot, bro. Look, it's like she helps out this much, bro. Every time I go out, she makes sure I don't have a warrant for my arrest.
Under your fingernail.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, she makes sure I don't have a warrant for my arrest. Like, there's a lot of things that she does for me, with me, helps me. Just with Silence of the Law, at Press On, and everybody here. My wife is trying to help us all with this whole situation, man. So much love and props to my wife. You know, the whole community gives it to me, man. Everybody gives it to me, but you know, at home I give it to my wife.
There you go. That's it.
We all.
Yeah, man. We got Silence of the Law here. We have Lady Justice, Liberty Press. We got Press On in jail, in Bakersfield, California. Look, man, I'm inviting everybody. The doors are open to Bakersfield, California. Even if we had a falling out of some sort or whatever, hey, man, we can cheers, or we don't have to. You know, we can eat at the same restaurants or not for lunch, dinner. But yeah, come down. Bakersfield's messed up, man. Obviously, it'd be nice to have not just people from town, out of town, not just people from out of town, but in town to record. And that's what I've been trying to do since day one, man.
I'm gonna go out there, but I'm gonna be west of Bakersfield because I can't be like, "Hey, I'm in Bakersfield."
Chalice, homie. That shit ain't the way it is over here.
I'm gonna go for sure. I'm gonna go visit.
It ain't like the way you think, bro. It ain't motherfucking honky tonk. It ain't the old western honky tonk.
No, for real. Let's go to, what is it called? Mara Bay? Is that what it's called?
Morro Bay?
Yeah. Let's go out there, bro.
Oh man, yes, absolutely.
I drove out to that big rock. There's a big island out there, right?
Oh yeah. We were in Santa Monica yesterday, bro. We went to go eat. We took a Riverside County Accountability, a new channel to go, and a new channel from Bakersfield called Get Up, Stand Up America.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm trying to help new channels grow, bro. Local especially. I might not be here tomorrow, guys. Come on now. I need everybody to pick it up. Anyhow, we went out there and we was chilling, having a good time, man. And we went cop watching. We got some good cop watching in, some good audits. Bro, I got footage I haven't uploaded yet. Enough about me. I love all you guys.
I want you to hear this. Check this out. This is one of my favorite scenes. This is a Kevin Smith movie called God Bless America. And this is one of the Murray brothers. This guy's brothers with Bill Murray. And he's in a cubicle with his coworker who's telling him, "Oh, you didn't see that funny thing on that show last night like they talked about on the radio this morning?" He's like, "No." It's like, "Yeah, well, I did, but I changed the channel." "Oh, what, are you too good for it?" "Yeah, I am." They were making fun of a mentally disabled person, and those people on the radio are just hacks. They're shock jocks, but they're not freedom of speech guys. They're overpaid rich guys trying to make a quick buck off of triggering you. You know?
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, "Oh, but you're more of the other station kind of guy." And he's like, "No, dude, it's just I'm not even like any of those damn people, man." And it's just he talks about like where we are as a civilization, and then he refers to a couple things that are in the movie you have to know about it. Like his neighbors have a baby that cries at 3:00 in the morning. He refers to it as an air raid siren or something. But listen, can you hear that?
Mm-mm.
No. No, it's not working. I don't know why.
You always know the most random, funniest shit, bro.
Yeah, well, this
it's
guy,
like-
he talks
it's like
about
you have a
well, he
damn
talks
good
about
memory.
like the collapse of our civilization and how it's overdue, and how this is what we have American Idol, where we'll have like some.
So it's not
corny
random.
guy.
It
Like
actually.
I remember Sanjaya. Sanjaya was a guy who could not sing, but they kept voting for him because he was ruining the show.
No, it was random shit. You always know random shit. You know a
Ray,
lot of
you're
shit,
mine.
bro. You
I love
fucking
how
know a
it
lot.
works.
Can you play the Red's Crispy Opera joint?
What's going on here?
Yeah, I was trying to play this screen, but it's not.
It's not loading.
No, I thought hold on. Stop screen. Let me try it again.
Bro, that background you had earlier was super legit. I actually thought it was like your whole fucking background. I was like,
was nice.
damn.
I recall it was very nice.
It's super low. I don't know why. Yeah, I know. This is what Susan Bassi was talking about before. They're talking shit about our employer. I'm going to try to find that.
Bro, I got the Adesanya fight and the Bang podcast going on. It's hard for me to
Oh, there's a
not
fight.
watch the fights.
Yeah, how is it? How's it going? I was just going to look that up.
Second round. There's Adesanya versus how you say his name? Yeah, that guy. Second round, 2 minutes 40 seconds in. I just came in. It's on the feet. Adesanya seems to be playing with him like he does everybody else. Ooh.
There we go. It's ironic that I'm just regurgitating this, but
Ooh, fool got poked in the eye. Shit, fellas.
no volume, huh?
You guys had the best of the best on tonight, man. You guys
Yeah,
had
this is coming
you
out.
guys had Captain Awesome. You
Well, check
guys had
that out,
Susan
guys.
Bassi, Rob Farlow. Amazing panel, dude.
Yeah, we have every week it keeps getting better just because of the people we have on, man. I mean, Cut the Plastic, Eric Brandt,
Roar.
you guys. We had Big Nick was on here.
We need to get James Freeman on here, man.
Hell yeah! You know, I was
James.
his first member of his. You know how you could join the channel.
Oh, nice, bro. Oh yeah. Good shit.
I had to cancel that shit yesterday. Sorry, James Freeman. It was like, hey, do you want to renew? No, I just renewed to the Johnny 50 website. Sorry. I'm moving over there. Hey, you know, I support everybody, but
You know
gotta
what? I
spread it out
started
and distribute it evenly.
I started my whole thing, man, but I never finished it because I couldn't it's not that I couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't figure out what I really wanted to do with it. So I was just like, man, you know, fuck that, dude. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like I do every fucking thing else, dude. I'm such a dumbass when it comes to shit. I just care about fucking, you know, I'm okay where I'm at right here. I'm just gonna keep working and fucking doing this, yada yada.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Who's Now Ninjas in the house.
Thank you, Rob.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, shit. You're doing great. You're doing the kind of change. You're affecting the kind of change you want. You could see it. I mean, you could see the fruits of you guys, of your labor now. You can start seeing it. You know, so I mean, if
He's in the house too.
so, you know, why not enjoy your life? You know, if you're the type of dude that wants to just work your ass off till you friggin' get more and more, whatever. I mean, that's you. Do you? But I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, man. You're an awesome guy, man. You have an extraordinary talent for what you do, and you know, doing great things. Both of you guys. It's really an honor to know you guys. I love you guys a lot, man.
Same
Thank
here.
you, bro. The way I think the way I look at work ethic is like sometimes it's grueling, you know, like who wants to get up in the morning every day, you know?
Yeah.
But sometimes the work is like sometimes it's in the middle of the night and it comes sometimes it comes pulling and kicking, you know, at you and telling you need to get up.
Yeah.
And you can't go back to sleep. If you can work through those nights, man, then you can find a way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
those
know,
are the
for me,
that's
I have
what tests you.
a multifaceted life. I have several
By
things
the way.
going on right now, and it's just keeping up with all of them. It's juggling. I am juggling a lot of things, and you know, it's a relief to know that I got a good lawyer, Kyle Henderson in Alabama. Just took a big weight off my shoulders. Thank you for that. Shout out to you, sir. And I'll tell you guys about that in the after party. But yeah, it's 1:00 in the morning over here. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been out here. Thank you to all the mods. Thanks to all the people who came on. Thanks to Susan Bassi. Thanks to Rogue Nation. And thank you guys. And don't take off anywhere. Anybody have any questions, comments, agreements, disagreements they want to address in the chat before we log off? This is your chance. Type it real quick. Make it short and sweet because we're not waiting too long to read a whole ass paragraph. So,
Man, hey, everybody.
type 1 if you're happy with this 3-hour long thing.
This is an amazing group of people, and I am honored and blessed to be a part of it, bro. Yeah, what a blessing. That's all I can say, man.
Thank you, yo.
You guys are awesome, Rob, Finn. I'm out.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, we will keep it up.
Peace.
Yeah, don't take off, guys. Thank you, guys. And Rob, Stone Sailor, you're dismissed.
Love you guys. See you.
Love you too, bro.